on, guys? It is my second baseball show of the day, but my first baseball show of this season with Adam, because Adam and I did a bunch of baseball shows last year, but Adam's primarily been doing NBA as of late, but there is no basketball games today. So Adam, who is, I could tell, just chomping at the bit, so excited to be chopping up some baseball with me. Adam, just tell the people, how excited are you?
Oh yeah, man, I'm thrilled. It is nice to get away from, to switch sports up, get away from basketball. But I'm always like, I'm never that excited going into like my first show of a season because I don't remember like how to do them. Kind of like, I mean, obviously I know how to do a show, but like I don't remember half the stuff that I look at for baseball and that I normally talk about. I'm not in the habit of like quickly switching stuff around on my screen so that like while you're talking and asking me about a game, I have my answers ready. So I might be a little bit choppier and me being like, oh, I wonder what the answer to this is, and me trying to remember how the hell to find it.
Yeah, I could totally relate to that. And then also, I was telling you before, we had the same conversation, I remember last year when you did your first baseball show, where you and I are sitting there before the show and you're like, I don't know what I usually look at. It's that same feeling where it's like you're talking in public or you're taking pictures. Like, what do I usually do with my hands when you think about it consciously? Right. Where it's just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. It's the same kind of thing where I remember doing my first show of the baseball season last week and just looking like, you'd be like, what information do I usually have in front of me? And just kind of trying to figure it out. And this slate is going to be a little bit different than some other slates because there are a couple of extra games on the FanDuel slate than are on the DraftKings slate. So the first couple games we talk about, Nationals, Pirates, Phillies, Marlins, only specific to FanDuel, and we'll be talking about the rest of the games. Do us a favor, guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and shout out to OddsShopper, who is sponsoring today's Deeper Dive. The easiest way to find prop bets is you head on over to OddsShopper. It takes like 30 seconds, and you can find yourself profitable prop bets on any given slate for pretty much any sport. We're adding a bunch to them. Baseball is going to be up there soon. We've got golf up there now. Check it out. Free and easy to use. All right, let's start talking about tonight's games and break Adam's baseball cherry for 2022. Washington Nationals on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. It is two offenses that leave a lot to be desired and two pitchers that kind of are in the same boat. Juan Adon is going to be pitching for Washington, JT Brubaker for Pittsburgh. And here's how I view the pitchers in this spot. If this was DraftKings, I could see myself wanting to get to these guys as SP2s. For FanDuel, though, I just don't see a lot of need to get to these cheaper pitchers on this slate. Do you feel any desire to roster either of these guys?
No, so the first thing I'm trying to do right now is figure out who the hell Juan Adon is. I do know who JT Brubaker is, but no, I mean, I think that makes sense. Like, there is obviously just a big difference between FanDuel and DraftKings, since not only, do you roster one pitcher so you don't really have as much margin for error, but also it just naturally drives down the ownership on other pitchers too. Like on DraftKings, most good pitchers are pulling a good amount of ownership, whereas on FanDuel, you can just find good, relatively low-owned pitchers anyway. So there's less reason to, go down the list. Adon went 4 1/3 in his first game this year. He really hasn't pitched above high A. 17 starts there last year, 3 starts at Double-A, 1 at Triple-A. 1 start in the majors, and then 1 start in the majors this year. So good matchup against the Pirates, but hard to think that you want to get there in this spot. And then Brubaker, same kind of thing. Not a bad matchup against Washington. Obviously you have a couple of bats that you have to navigate your way through, but overall a pretty weak lineup. But also just not a guy that I'm really looking to get to on a one pitcher site.
Yeah, and then the other thing too I'll add about Adon is, so I rostered him a bunch in his last start because it was for DraftKings purposes, he was the flat min pitching against the Mets, and it was a weaker pitching slate. He pitched really well for a few innings, and then the Nationals just left him out way too long. He came out for, I think it was the 5th inning. He was totally gassed. He walked 3 hitters in a row to lead off the inning. They're like, this seems good. We're going to leave Adon out here to ruin all of Greg's lineups. And then he gives up a grand slam to Pete Alonso in the next pitch. And I'm just sitting here watching the team like, cool. We've gotten 4 innings out of him. He was at like 13 fantasy points. So like no need for him to continue. And then he lost all his fantasy points really quickly.
Yeah, that need feeling where you're sitting there between like, well, it'd be really cool if he scores 20, but also just get him out of the game, please.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen too. Once he came out, I was like, this is going to go poorly. He walks 1 hitter. I'm like, yep, not going well. Walks another hitter. Yep, not going well. Then I think it was actual hit by pitch. I was like, this is inevitable. Then serves up the grand slam to Pete Alonso. There went that slate. No need to chase that today. One thing that is kind of interesting, though, is for FanDuel purposes, the Pirates are crazy popular. And even if Adon didn't come away with the best results in his first start, he has good stuff. And I think he could be a competent big league pitcher. I do not think there's very many slates where the Pirates should ever warrant being one of the most popular stacks. They're projected for 11% ownership, one of the most negatively leveraged stacks on the slate. My main takeaway from this game is I just don't want to play nearly as much of the Pirates as the field is for FanDuel.
Yeah, and I think we see this a lot where if you look at the top value percentage in the top stacks tool, Pittsburgh leads the way. So they're just really, really cheap. And if you're just optimizing and building lineups, you're going to get to a lot of Pittsburgh because it's not a bad spot. They're inexpensive. They still have the 5th highest top stack percentage too. So they look good in that sense, but it's just likely to drive up their ownership by enough to where either you're not going to want as much as the field, or you're going to want to be mixing them in sort of with lower owned stacks, using them as one-offs or something like that. Because like you said, it's not that it's a bad spot for them, but it's a bad overall offense that's getting a lot of ownership, and mostly they're getting that ownership just because they're really inexpensive. But with baseball, it's different than something like basketball, where like in basketball, if multiple players from a team project as like the clear point per dollar values, you're just going to get there because it's going to allow you to get to expensive plays that are going to do better than cheap guys. Whereas baseball, like expensive guys fail all the time, and you can frequently score more points with cheaper guys. So there's not as much inherent value in just jamming in the cheapest plays that you can.
And then on the other side of the game, I totally agree with everything that you were saying. Well, I did think it was funny. Mikael McDonald in the YouTube chat was saying, "What's going on, everybody? Let's just skip everything and go to the Coors stacks. Don't worry, we'll be talking about Coors later. It'll be a big talking point, but got to be a build-up. We don't just get right to the good part. You got to tease yourself a little bit first by talking about the Nationals and the Pirates." GT Brubaker starting for Pittsburgh. He's solid, not great, and isn't the highest upside fantasy pitcher. Matchup against the Nationals, they've got Juan Soto, Nelson Cruz in their lineup. This team looks about appropriately on. They're picking up some ownership, but not too much. It's not a high priority stack. If you're playing 150 lineups and you have like 5% of Washington, cool. But really the main interest here is Juan Soto as a one-off. Other than that, I can't imagine liking Washington all that much. Do you have a different read, JT Brubaker going up against the Nats offense?
No, I mean, pretty much the same thing. Soto obviously is the priority from Washington. Nelson Cruz, Josh Bell, both cheap. You don't need a catcher on FanDuel, I guess, but Ruiz batting 5th, not a bad price there. So, I think that the middle part of the order for Washington is pretty nice. But I agree with you. It's not like it's a great park to hit in. Only a 4.3 implied run total for Washington. More likely to be getting to one-offs here. As far as the stack goes, they are projected to be pretty much neutral in terms of ownership. 5.8% top stack percentage, 5.7% ownership. So I think they're fine, but it's more so just that I really like Soto, and then, Cruz and Bell look pretty good as well.
All right, let's move on to the next game. And this is the last game we have to talk about. It's only a FanDuel exclusive. Two better pitchers on the mound. This one, the Phillies and the Marlins going against each other. Kyle Gibson for Philly, Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins. And Alcantara also is now by far the most popular play on the entire FanDuel slate. I like Alcantara in general as a real life pitcher. I kind of question his upside sometimes for fantasy, especially on a single pitcher site when he's projected for 23% ownership in a somewhat difficult matchup against Philly. I like him. It's just the strikeout rate has not been massive for him for most of his career. He did have a career high 24% last year, but I'm not sure there's a spot where at 9,300 I want to be playing him over the field at 23%. So he looks like somebody to me to be underweight to. What do you make of Alcantara? Really good stuff, but it's just never led to a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah, and I mean, he did start racking up strikeouts toward the end of last year. I know that was a really, really popular talking point within season-long fantasy, just from seeing people on Twitter just, either, oh, well, it was just, a fluky 2 months, or people saying he's completely different. Like, he does have really good stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see him continue to strike guys out at a higher rate. But it's also not like it's an easy matchup here against Philadelphia. And there are other high upside pitchers on this slate as well that just aren't pulling as much ownership, which kind of goes back to the point that we made at the beginning, where with it being a one pitcher site, if Alcantara is going to pull a bunch of ownership, that's fine, but you're going to be able to get other good pitchers that are just not as popular. So I'm with you. Like, there's nothing wrong with rostering him. He looks good. I think it's very fair to say that he's underpriced at 9,300, but I also think that he probably shouldn't be in 1/5 of the lineups that are played.
Yeah, that's really, to me, the main take. If he was 10% on, I'd be like, oh, cool. But he's not. He's in 23% of lineups. And I think it's a little bit too popular for Alcantara. By the way, shame on Nightbot, who's just popping into YouTube chat and posting promo codes from March 16th. a month ago. Nightbot, what are you doing out there? I'm going to correct the record because Nightbot is spreading false information about our premium bets package. If you guys do want access to our premium bets package, you can get access to it. Just go in the description box below in our YouTube, the description box of the YouTube video right here, and you can find information about it. But it's something that pays for itself. It's $25 per week, but based on some of the success we've had with guys like Alex Baker, Ben Rossa, Steve Buzzard giving out picks, it's something that we're pretty confident with the success they've had, that it's going to be a pieces of content that just pay for itself with the bets that are there. It's really easy. They post the bets in Discord. It's fun. You hang out, chop it up with those guys, and then you win some money at the end of the day. So I recommend checking that out. We also have a Twitter account at Awesemo Bets, where we're giving out one of our premium bets for free each day. So follow that on Twitter. All right. On the other side of this game, Kyle Gibson is going to be starting for the Phillies. The matchup against the Marlins, it's a good one. The ballpark, also a good one. I just really want to pay $9,800 for Kyle Gibson. Kind of some of the same concerns I have with Alcantara's upside I have with Kyle Gibson, but it's even more magnified when it comes to Gibson. He was good in his first start of this season, but in general, he's been a guy who hasn't had a whole lot of success in the past, has never been a high strikeout guy. He's 10% owned at 9,800. I don't have interest.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree that I'm much more on your side here as far as Gibson's upside than Alcantara's, because Gibson is someone that I've thought for years, if he ever decides he wants to get strikeouts and be a strikeout pitcher, he has the stuff to do it, but he's just never shown that inclination. Like, you'll see some stretches where he just starts throwing his slider a lot and getting strikeouts, and then he's just like, nah, ground balls are more fun. Let's do that. And so, again, last year there were stretches where it seemed like he was going to start getting more strikeouts, but he finished the season with a 20.8% strikeout percentage, pretty favorable matchup against Miami in Miami, but he's not exactly cheap. He is getting ownership, 8% chance of being the top pitcher, 10% ownership. So yeah, like 9,800, I have a hard time really wanting to prioritize that.
And then with him going up against the Marlins, even if I think Kyle Gibson is overpriced, he's a good enough starting pitcher that I'm looking at the Marlins in their home ballpark with a 3% chance to be the top stack of the team, being like, oh, I need to get exposure to them. I think the Marlins are one of the weaker teams to stack on the slate. No real significant interest for me on that end. Do you feel any differently?
No, Gibson's like a really annoying DFS pitcher because it's like he's tough to roster, especially when he's expensive, but it's also not somebody that I can really point to any holes because he held righties last year to an ISO just shy of 100, only a 149 ISO to lefties. He actually did strike out 24% of righties last year as well. And you do have 6 righties in the lineup for Miami. So if you were somebody looking to roster Gibson, that is a point in his favor, but there's just not much I can point to as far as like bats that I even would want to target against Gibson.
All right. I think this next game we're going to talk about now, one that's on DraftKings and FanDuel, is one that we're going to have some interest in because the Toronto Blue Jays are playing the New York Yankees, two very good high-powered offenses, but also two pitchers with upside. We've got Kevin Gausman on the mound for the Blue Jays and Luis Severino for the New York Yankees. Now, Severino, at least for FanDuel purposes, not somebody I think we should be considering, especially because I don't think he's going to work very deep into the game. Probably at max, we're getting 5 innings or so from him, but it's 7,400. Do you see any reason to consider Severino as an SP2 on DK? Yeah,
he actually made his way into my tournament plays video earlier. And the reason is just, and I talked about this a lot at the beginning of that video because I realized as I was putting it together that my top stacks and my top pitchers were basically just groups of guys facing each other. But what happens a lot of times in a spot like this is you get a pitcher in Severino who, yeah, there are workload concerns, like you said. He threw 65 pitches his first time out. He's got a pretty lengthy injury history. I don't expect him to go super deep into this game. I think 5 innings, maybe 75, 80 pitches is a very reasonable expectation, but he does have really good strikeout stuff. And a lot of times what happens in spots like this is like people are like, oh, Luis Severino's pitching for the Yankees and they have a good bullpen, so I'm not going to go to the Blue Jays bats. And then they're like, well, Severino's facing the Blue Jays, so I'm not going to go to Severino. And you get a situation where like, if the good pitcher does well, he's not as popular as, he normally would be, and then vice versa for the hitters. So in tournaments at that cheap price tag, I do have some interest in Severino as long as the ownership stays low. Like that's a huge thing because he's getting 10% right now. We have him with about a 14% chance of being optimal. To me, that's fine. If you started to see that ownership come up and people are saying, for example, right now we have 42% ownership going to Musgrove at $200 more. We have 41% going to Ohtani at $500 more. I like agree with that. If you started to see it get, Ohtani or Severino get closer to Ohtani and Musgrove, then I would just be saying like, okay, this is insane. Get away from the guy that's probably going to throw 75 pitches.
Yeah, and then just because I agree with you, I think Severino's a good GPP play on this slate as long as he stays, like you said, around that 10% ownership number. If he gets to the point where he's 15 to 20%, he loses some of his luster, but like 10% or less. And I'm digging that a little bit, but that doesn't mean I don't like Toronto on the other side, because we're still looking at a Luis Severino he's hardly pitched over the last couple of years. He's had, I think, a Tommy John surgery, tore his Achilles or something at one point. I might have some of the injuries mixed up, but either way, it's been a very long layoff for Severino. Hasn't been on the mound as much. I think the upside for him is very significant this season, but so is the downside. And for that reason, I look at a Toronto Blue Jays offense that they went off against Garrett Cole yesterday. We had Vladdy hit 3 homers and had a double in his other at bat. They're only picking up 4% ownership. The matchup ball isn't ideal. I want to be on teams like the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees whenever they're contrarian stacked, which looks like it's going to be the case today.
Yeah, like you don't even have to tell me who the opposing pitcher is. All you have to tell me is that the Blue Jays are projected for 4% aggregate ownership on a 6-game slate, and I'm going to be interested because there is so much power there. And one way to think about it is, it's not just about how often are they going to have success here? It's, kind of what does it look like when they do score runs? There's some teams where, not that you would ever, not want to have stacked a team that scores like 8 runs, but a lot of teams or some teams, it's like, okay, well, they got 8 runs, but it's pretty unlikely that they just hit, 5 or 6 home runs. Toronto can just, go bombs away and just start hitting a million home runs here. And then you factor in who the opposing pitcher is. Yes, Severino is very talented. Severino has thrown 21 innings in the major leagues since the start of the 2019 season. He's thrown 382 total pitches over that time. So, yeah, he is talented, but we really don't know what this guy is at this point. And that's part of the reason why I'm interested in him at 7,400. And it's also a reason why I'm interested in Toronto on the other side.
Yeah, and then if I have to mention a positive on Severino, his velocity was still there last start. So it looks like the arm talent's there. Is he going to stay healthy or not? How long is he allowed to work into games? Is he going to have control issues? There's a lot of unknowns here. And one other thing I'm going to point out that I mentioned on the MLB strategy show, the pitching in the American League sucks this year compared to the National League. The National League has so many of the best pitchers in baseball. Because of the upside of Severino and his velocity was still in check in the first start, he's 100 to 1 to win Cy Young. It's something I put $50 on. I think that's a well-deserved upside bet at 100 to 1 for somebody with the kind of arm talent he has in an American League without very many high upside pitchers. High upside pitchers. I think that's something worth rolling the dice on. But let's talk now about Kevin Gausman going up against the Yankees, because Gausman himself also somewhat of a high variance pitcher over the time in his career. I'm sure you're well aware during his time in Baltimore, there were starts to be like, oh my God, Kevin Gausman's a future Cy Young winner. And then other times like, oh my God, Kevin Gausman doesn't belong in the MLB. He's all over the place. He was great last year, best year of his career with San Francisco. Not exactly sure what to make of him in Toronto in a much more hitter-friendly park. But for this matchup individually against the Yankees, what do you make of Gausman? What do you make of the Yankees offense?
Yeah, I like both sides here too. So with Gausman, overall I'm a little nervous about the move to Toronto for a couple of reasons. One is that, like you said, we saw really good flashes from him in Baltimore, but he never consistently put it together. One thing that we talked about a lot from a DFS standpoint when he was there is that you knew if he was going to have a good game basically by who was catching for Baltimore, because at the time it was Caleb Joseph would call for his splitter constantly and any other catcher wouldn't. And Gausman, for whatever reason, couldn't figure out on his own that he should throw his best pitch a lot. So then he basically turns into like a reliever. He gets DFA'd by a couple of teams, ends up on the Giants, ends up being great there, but he was pitching in the best pitcher's park in baseball. And I just still have the concern too, where it's just like, did Kevin Gausman learn anything, or did the Giants understand how to use him and now he's in a different organization that maybe he's going to screw everything up? It is interesting to me. He threw his splitter 36% of the time in his first start. He threw his changeup 9% of the time. They are very similar pitches, so I kind of just look at them together. That's very much in line with what he was doing last year. So at least through one start, there's no glaring red flag in terms of like, oh, Kevin Gausman's throwing his fastball 75% of the time again or something like that. So that's good to see. And then, like you said too, he is just going to face very dangerous offenses in better hitters parks in the American League East. Certainly Yankee Stadium can give up some power as well, but there's a lot of strikeouts to be had in the Yankees lineup, in addition to a lot of power. Makes it a very risky spot, but also a very potentially rewarding spot. And right now on DraftKings, 30% ownership going to Gausman, 25% chance of being a top two pitcher, but he's only $8,500. So like from a value standpoint, he looks pretty good. And then on FanDuel, he's more expensive at 9,600, but he's only pulling 3% ownership. Somebody like Gausman that is coming off a year where he struck out almost 30% of hitters, going up against a lineup that has Giancarlo Stanton and Joey Gallo and Aaron Judge and Gleyber Torres. I'm certainly interested at the low ownership on FanDuel and the cheap price tag on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's every time a pitcher goes up against the Yankees, it's going to be feast or famine, because if they're able to make it out of the start relatively unscathed, like just not get lit up, a lot of the outs are going to come via strikeout, because that's how a lot of these guys make their outs. The problem is when they make contact, there's a good chance it goes out of the yard. So I look at the Yankees kind of similar to what we said about Toronto. This is a team I want to be overweight to as a not popular stack. They're projected for 4.5% ownership. There's a massive amount of power in the Yankees lineup. Kevin Gausman has had a very up and down career. He was not good in his first start this season. So I think Gausman is worth playing both sides of this game as well. I'm for both pitchers, both offenses. I want exposure here. The Yankees offense is certainly one I'm going to be getting to. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think the Yankees are a good stack on either site. I think they're a better stack on DraftKings than FanDuel, just because you are getting more ownership to Gausman. So you're getting the added benefit. Like if the Yankees do well, then yeah, cool, your Yankees lineups are doing well, but also a quarter of the field is getting their $8,500 pitcher bombed potentially. So they're a little bit more powerful on DraftKings than FanDuel, but not getting much ownership on either site because they are relatively expensive. So I do just like the upside they offer on either site.
All right, it's time to talk about a fun price tag because we have the Los Angeles Angels on the road against the Texas Rangers. The Rangers do have an improved offense this year. I don't care that much when it comes to Shohei Ohtani, because if Ohtani's on, he's basically unhittable. He looked ridiculous in his first start of the season. And now we have to talk about the price point. For whatever reason, DraftKings made him $7,900. FanDuel has him at $10,800. That is a crazy difference, $2,900 between the two sites. Ohtani, for me, at $7,900, it's going to be really hard to avoid. I'm going to have him in a lot of my lineups. I'm not sure I'm going to get to the 41% of the field, the 41% ownership the field's at, but a pretty good chance by the time we get to lock, Ohtani will be my most rostered pitcher. How are you going to handle him when he's just pretty clearly underpriced on DK?
Yeah, it's just the mispricing. I mean, 29.3% strikeout percentage last year, the same as Kevin Gausman. No real reason to think that he's any more limited than other pitchers right now, based on his first start. Like you said, Texas is a much better offense than they were last year, but still some strikeouts to be had here. Still, kind of some questionable hitters, in different parts of this lineup. So I do like getting to Ohtani. I think that you still obviously need to be aware of the ownership. It's another situation where, on DraftKings, he's pulling 41%. Kind of talked about him when we talked about Severino, where if I'm only rostering one guy, it's Ohtani over Severino. But I do think that, Severino beats Ohtani more than 1 in 4 times, for example. And then on FanDuel, it's kind of the opposite, where you have Sandy Alcantara pulling so much ownership that you can kind of pay up to be contrarian on Ohtani, only pulling like 9% ownership. So kind of like Gausman, I like him on both sites, but for different reasons.
And then when it comes to the Texas Rangers offense, it's a little improved this year. Ohtani's not a pitcher I like to make a habit of targeting, but there is a reality that when his starts go poorly, they go very poorly. And I was looking at this with Eric on the strategy show this morning, and it was something like 40% of Ohtani's earned runs last year came in 3 starts. His 3 worst starts accounted for almost half the runs he gave up. So there is always the chance if he comes out, he struggles to throw strikes, he get an outing like he had against the Yankees last year, where he picked up 2 outs and left the game having allowed 7 runs. So do you view the Texas Rangers as a team with a slightly improved offense that you want to get to for today with Ohtani being so popular?
Yeah, right now we have them on DraftKings as the 3rd lowest top stack percentage, but we do have them going a little bit under owned. They're a team that I think, I personally probably am going to have trouble getting to. I haven't built lineups yet, so maybe that's wrong. But I do think they're a team that, and this is something that comes up with MLB a lot, it kind of depends on what your strategies are. I think that there's a lot to be said for incorporating the opposing pitcher's ownership into how you view stacks, because it is just such a powerful way to climb leaderboards, and there is so much variance in baseball. I don't do it a ton, mostly because I haven't really found a good way to do it that I like. So that's why I'm not really sure that I get to a lot of Texas. But if you are someone that embraces that variance a little bit more and likes to go up against popular pitchers, getting this Texas offense at 3% aggregate ownership against a 40% Ohtani is just one of those situations where, like, I think it's very unlikely to succeed tonight. But if you got this situation every day for the next 6 months, you're probably going to make a lot of money if you just like did that every single time.
Yeah, and that is something that I also try to do. This isn't the spot for me, though. Like, there are individual spots to be like, oh, this pitcher is really overowned. I'm trying to be underweight to the field. This offense is a little bit positively leveraged, and I'll manually boost the amount of stacks I get based on that. And it's not like a super mathematical way I do it. I just kind of do it manually in fantasy crunch. It's like, oh, I need to get more of this offense for that reason. But the Rangers are not going to be one of those for me on this slate, just mostly because I really am bullish on Shohei Ohtani for this year. And I think that he potentially could be the best pitcher in the American League. And here's something that's really frustrating about him, though, for fantasy purposes. Neither DraftKings nor FanDuel have figured out a way to make him eligible as both a pitcher and a hitter. So as a result, it kind of screws with all the top stack odds when it comes to the Angels, because they rate out as underowned right now. One of the better leverage plays on the slate. But here's the issue. We can't roster arguably their best hitter. At worst, he's their second best hitter because they have Mike Trout. So you could get one of these situations where the Angels are a high scoring team. They put up 8-9 runs. Ohtani might homer twice and the stack still sucks because a lot of the production came from Ohtani. So I'm going to be much lower on the Angels than I normally would be when the leverage score is this high, just because I can't include Ohtani in those stacks. How do you handle the Ohtani situation when the Angels offense looks good, but we can't roster one of their best hitters?
Yeah, same boat. I kind of ran into it when I did the tournament videos earlier, because we have them, like, you're just looking at leverage as the top stack, and I did include them as the top stack there. But it is a real issue when you can't roster their leadoff hitter, because for one, Ohtani is obviously really good and you would like to be rostering him in Angel stacks. But two, it just also lowers the combinations, decreases the combinations that you have. So you're even more likely to be very similar to whatever other people are stacking the Angels, in those lineups, because you just have one less hitter to use. There is still power here. I mean, the Trout, Rendon, Walsh part of the lineup certainly has power. Brandon Marsh is a flawed hitter, but he has power. Stassi has some power for a catcher. But then, once you get past that lineup's pretty ugly. So it is a spot where I don't think from a DFS standpoint, they're quite as appealing as, like, a team with a 4.6 implied run total that isn't getting a ton of ownership normally would be. And then on top of that, Dane Dunning's not bad either. Like, he's a young pitcher for Texas. He's not elite or anything, but this is someone last year that had a 3.93 xFIP, 22% strikeout percentage, just, a pretty decent pitcher anyway. And then you're losing arguably the best hitter in the Angels lineup.
Yeah, the one issue with Dane Dunning, which doesn't apply to real life, but does matter for fantasy purposes, the Rangers have always been really cautious with his pitch counts. Even when he's stretched out in the middle of the year, Dane Dunning is not somebody you typically see go like 7 innings or throw 100+ pitches. He's always been a guy they've handled kind of with kid gloves. So for that reason, it's going to be hard for me to trust him as an SP2. Another thing also is the Angels offense could be worse over the course of the year, because this is a team like Anthony Rendon, Mike Trout, guys that get injured a lot. The time you don't want to pick on the Angels offense is the first week of the season when everybody's totally healthy. But is Dane Dunning somebody you look at as a decent SP2 option at all?
He was, on DraftKings, I'm interested. 6,400, 14% top two pitcher percentage, 8% ownership projection. Like I said before, he's not a bad pitcher. 22% ownership, or 22% strikeout percentage. You're basically talking about somebody that strikes guys out at actually a slightly higher rate than Kyle Gibson. Better xFIP, a little bit more home runs per 9, but nothing crazy. And there are just a lot of strikeouts here, because even Ohtani strikes out. He's really good, obviously. Like, I'm not painting it as Ohtani being in the lineup is like a plus for Dunning, but Ohtani strikes out, Walsh strikes out, Marsh strikes out at an ungodly rate, Stassi strikes out. The bottom of the order is absolute garbage. So I do think it's a pretty good spot for Dunning. I think he's underpriced. I'm kind of surprised he's not getting more ownership, actually.
Yeah, let's see. We have him right now. The most recent projection is for 8% ownership. So he does look fairly low relative to his top value and top two pitcher odds. So based on ownership, I think he could be viewed as a pivot option off of guys like Luis Severino or Shohei Ohtani or Joe Musgrove, because I know I'm not going to want to roster some of the other pitchers that we're about to talk about in this Tigers-Royals game.
I want to clarify something.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I said that I wasn't sure why he wasn't getting more ownership. The one caveat to that is, in baseball, like, and especially like this season, hitter pricing has been pretty soft. But also, just again, because you can just find cheap stacks or cheap one-offs, and it's not a big deal. Like, I get it if it's just that it's very easy to get, combinations of Musgrove, Ohtani, Gausman. Like, that makes sense. But from just a like value standpoint at 6,400, I think Dunning is underpriced.
Yeah. And I mean, also when the point I was about to make there is if you're trying to look for pivots away from, well, Severino's a pivot away from Ohtani and Musgrove, but if you're looking for another pivot, it's kind of Dane Dunning by default for me because the other cheap pitchers we're about to talk about here in the Tigers-Royals game, I don't have very much interest in Casey Mize. I don't have interest in Zach Greinke. Greinke, just older. The velocity is greatly diminished from when he was at the peak of his powers. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys. And Casey Mize is a young prospect who, while he has really good stuff, it has not amounted to strikeouts at the big league level. And it's hard to imagine that changes. And if you look at most projection sources, they don't expect Casey Mize to be a high strikeout guy this year. They expect him to be a low strikeout guy who has an ERA somewhere around the mid fours, which is what his underlying numbers from last year would suggest for this season. Casey Mize, Zach Greinke, do you have any interest in these cheaper SP2 options?
No, not really, just because I don't think we're really starving for pitching value here. Like, if I'm paying down, at least with the way ownership looks right now, I'd rather get to Dunning than either one. Like, we do have Greinke going under-owned as well, but I just prefer Dunning by a little bit. We have Mize going under-owned, but so I guess they're just guys where, like, if you're playing large field tournaments and playing 150 lineups, maybe you get to a little bit just based on the fact that they're under-owned, but I don't really see any way to prioritize them because neither guy is a very good strikeout guy, like you said. Both, total opposites in terms of we shouldn't ever expect Greinke's strikeout numbers to, really go up at this point. He's at the end of his career. He's just getting by on basically being really smart and understanding how to pitch. Mize, you could at least, maybe, like, he still has arm talent. He throws really hard. Maybe he figures out how to strike people out, as he gets more experience. But right now, there's no real reason to think that either of those things are going to happen.
Yeah, and we had somebody in chat right here. Ted Nugent 81 was adding me and said no Greinke love. No, just because he's not what I look for in a fantasy pitcher. And you don't have to be a great pitcher from we want to roster you in DFS, but you generally have to have a path to upside, aka strikeouts, and that's just not something that exists in Greinke at this point in his career. If you look at his numbers from last year, the strikeout rate dipped in a very significant way. So he went from being a guy who was, like mid-20s strikeout rate to 17.2% last year. And then you look at how he started this year, where he was not able to generate any swing and misses or strikeout guys. It's just alarming. I don't think those strikeouts are coming back, and that's reasonable. He's 38 years old, and he's seen a big decrease in his velocity. His best pitching days are behind him, and I just can't imagine I'm going to want to roster him very much in DFS, which is why if I had to take a side of this game, I don't mind getting to the Tigers at 3% ownership because Greinke might be totally washed. Maybe he's able to, kind of nip and tuck and clever his way to a quality start, but there's a chance he just sucks this year and he shouldn't be in the big leagues. So with that in mind, I like getting Detroit and targeting some of their younger high upside hitters like a Spencer Torkelson, who was the first pick in the draft last year, that has a chance to become a star this year. So I like the Detroit Tigers for contrarian purposes. Is this an offense that you would like to land on?
Yeah, I like the lineup they're running out there too. They moved Victor Reyes to the bottom of the order, which he's fast. He gives you upside in tournaments, but not as much power. They're leading off Meadows. He looks good. Jonathan Scope moved up to second. Baez is back in the lineup. And then 6-7, you have Akil Baddoo and Spencer Torkelson, like you said. One thing that's interesting with Greinke, looking at his numbers over the last couple of years, is he has given up more power to righties than lefties. And I think that can be explained by him having a good changeup, which is a pitch that typically guys throw to opposite-handed hitters, and that's the case for Greinke. 34% to lefties last year, only 14% to righties. So not saying that like you don't want to look to guys like Austin Meadows or Akil Baddoo from the left side that have a lot of power, but it does make me not worry at all about the fact that guys like Torkelson, Scope, Baez are right-handed. I still think it sets up as a good spot for them.
Yeah, and then even though I don't like Casey Mize on the other side, the Royals are also a very popular offense. We have them projected for 12.4% ownership as a team on DraftKings, making them one of the more negatively leveraged stacks team of the day. And then over on FanDuel, even where there's more games involved, they're still projected for 8% ownership. So 8% I think is a little more tenable for me than the 12%. I get the upside here. I do not want to stack the Kansas City Royals when they're projected for 12% ownership. How are you going to be handling a team that's just massively overowned today?
It's basically the DraftKings equivalent of the Pirates, except for probably more upside. But 7% chance of being the top stack. That's fine. I don't have any issue with the matchup against Mize, but also 12% aggregate ownership. It is worth noting that because of the game in Colorado, like they're still only the 4th highest owned team on DraftKings. But yeah, I think still going a bit over-owned. As far as Mize goes, he did give up a lot to lefties last year. He was much, much better against righties, as you would expect. But a 270 ISO, 287 expected ISO to lefties. Certainly, looking for left-handed power bats here. Benintendi's hitting 3rd, if you want to call him a power bat. You have Santana from the left side, Mondesi from the left side. But Kansas City, it's more, for the most part, like when they get there, it's because they have so much speed. Like Merrifield, Witt, Mondesi, these guys will all steal like crazy. Taylor will steal. Benintendi will run. So I do think there's a lot of upside here. It's just the ownership's a bit concerning for me.
And then one other point that I'm going to bring up, because it's something that you and I have discussed a lot in previous years when it comes to baseball shows, is just because a stack is popular, it doesn't mean there isn't a way to make them contrarian. But for the Royals, it's not like it's 1 or 2 players that are carrying the weight of the ownership here. It's all of their decent hitters. So Salvador Perez, Whit Merrifield, Andrew Benintendi, Adalberto Mondesi, Bobby Witt. These are all guys projected for 15 to 17% ownership. It's not like one of these situations where it's like, oh, one guy's 30% owned and that's why the stack is over. It's the entire team from top to bottom of decent hitters. So that's also what makes this one of the teams that I'm just going to be very underweight to when it comes to stacks. And I just kind of hope that Casey Mize doesn't get totally destroyed. So
give me some 4% owned Carlos Santana though.
Yeah, Santana, I think that's reasonable. Carlos Santana currently projected for 4% ownership, batting 5th, only 3K on DK also. I think that's a reasonable way to differentiate lineup. If you are playing a Kansas City Royals stack and you want to differentiate it by taking a lower owned player, I do think Santana is the most reasonable one.
Also, Bobby Witt's salary is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, $2,500 for Bobby Witt makes no sense, which is one of the other reasons also that he's one of the more popular hitters on the slate. If you're running a contrarian stack and you need salary savings, that's probably the best place to utilize Bobby Witt. He's going to be really popular, but he's a really good source of salary savings. Fits fine into already other contrarian lineups. Any other talking points for you on this game?
No, I do really like. So, I mean, I actually like both offenses, which is weird in the Detroit Kansas City game. The ownership's just concerning on DraftKings. So, just be aware of what you're playing them with, who you're playing them with. And I do like the way the Tigers set up here against Greinke.
If you guys want access to all of the tools that we've been referencing, like the ownership projections, top stack tool, top pitchers tool during the show, you get access for all that for as low as $4.95 per week with an MLB weekly pass. We also have an Awesemo Plus weekly pass that encompasses just about every single DFS sport out there for $29.95, but you could get your foot in the door for as low as just under $5. That is by signing up using the weekly pass. Stop guessing, start winning, join Awesemo Plus today. All right, let's move on to the next game. And then we've got the Coors Field one after that. And I know that's one that everybody's been waiting for us to talk about. But first, the Atlanta Braves against the San Diego Padres. Two of the better pitchers on the slate, Charlie Morton, Joe Musgrove. Both of these guys are going to be pitchers we have to consider. On DK, Morton is projected for 29% ownership. We've got Musgrove projected to be the most popular pitcher on the slate at 42% ownership. Also another guy, massive price difference between DK and FanDuel. On FanDuel, Joe Musgrove is $10,300, making more of a contrarian option, whereas Charlie Morton is cheaper at $9K. How are you going to be handling Morton and Musgrove as two of the better pitching options, at least on paper today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just be getting pretty decent amounts of them. Neither one looks to be going under-owned, but also not wildly over-owned. Like on DraftKings, we have Morton with a 25% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 29% owned. Musgrove, 30% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 42% owned. None of that is overly concerning to me, especially when you consider how cheap Musgrove is. And then also, just typically wanting to, or being more willing to be contrarian with bats than with pitchers, because there's just a lot more volatility there. So I definitely like both of these pitchers despite relatively difficult matchups.
You have a super chat here from Gray. He's asking for a FanDuel GPP favorite cheap and expensive one-off on FanDuel. So just assuming that you're stacking another team, you're just looking for hitters to throw in. My favorite one-off hitter for cheap, at least, it's hard to ignore Brian Reynolds, who is under 3K on FanDuel. It's just an absurd price point for somebody who's as talented as him. In terms of a pay-up option, Seiya Suzuki is going to be in Coors Field. That's kind of hard to ignore. Juan Soto, though, is just the best individual hitter on this slate and probably the best hitter in baseball right now. So if you have the salary to get to him, I guess it would be him for him, for me. But Seiya Suzuki, given what he's shown us so far going in Coors Field and also having not too egregious of a price tag, he's $3,600 on FanDuel. That's probably where I'd lean. Do you have any other answers to add to the mix?
I'll throw $2,200 Carlos Santana in as the value. And then I do like $3,900 Bryce Harper, 5% ownership going up against the popular Alcantara. Again, not that you're not looking at it saying like, oh, Alcantara is somebody I really want to pick on here, but getting Bryce Harper against the most popular pitcher on the slate is never a spot that I'm going to be that upset about.
All right, so let's get back talking about the Braves and the Padres. Musgrove, Morton.
He asked about pitcher too.
Did he ask about pitcher?
Yeah. I'll throw Gausman in there.
Oh, yeah, did I miss that? Let's see. So favorite starting pitcher over on FanDuel for me. It seems like you already have a lineup built, and I'm not sure what your stack is, but just relative to ownership, the answer for me is Shohei Ohtani, just because you get Ohtani, who I think has considerable upside today. And I think his stuff is so good that the matchup is almost going to be irrelevant for Shohei Ohtani at times. And just the fact that he's sub 10% owned, that's a place I would like to go. Kevin Gausman also is crazy under-owned on FanDuel at 3%. So it depends how much salary you have to play with. Let's get back to this Padres and Braves game. And I think we should talk about the variance of Joe Musgrove, who was impossible to figure out last year. Do you remember the headache that was Joe Musgrove a year ago?
Yeah. Basically just did the opposite of what I wanted him to every single start.
Yeah, he'd be like on the road in Los Angeles and he'd be like, oh, surely this is a matchup he's going to struggle. And he'd just strike out everybody and then be like, oh, cool. Musgrove is at home against some shitty Diamondbacks or Tigers offense. And you just get absolutely lit up and not make it out of the first inning.
He had like one of the biggest drop-offs in spin rate too, after the sticky stuff thing. But then he figured it out again. It was like right around the time everybody decided like, oh, Musgrove can't pitch anymore. He was like, yeah, no, I figured out how to either cheat again or pitch better. So,
which it's hard to know how that's going to carry over to this year, but it's still a relevant talking point. But either way, I just think it adds more to the variance of Joe Musgrove. We don't know what the hell we're getting out of this guy. Could be really good. Could be kind of shit. We'll find out tonight. But the point being here is he's really popular. I want to get to the Braves as a leverage spot, because there's other cheap pitching options I like getting to. Musgrove, the range of outcomes for Musgrove today is like negative 10 fantasy points to 50. And that's not even exaggeration. That's what we saw from fairly regularly last year. You want to play a lot of Joe Musgrove. You want to stack a lot against Joe Musgrove also. I think it makes sense to play both sides and kind of unavoidable for me.
Yeah, also nice that there's plenty of left-handed power in the Braves lineup. The biggest weakness or like the most targetable weakness that Musgrove had last year was that he did allow a 191 ISO to lefties, 175 expected ISO. That's compared to 112 and 127 to righties. So he's always going to it's always going to be a little bit more dangerous for him going up against lefties or teams that have good lefties. The middle of the order here is all right-handed, but you have Albies and Olsen at the top. You have Rosario hitting sixth. You have Alex Dickerson hitting eighth, who actually has some power as well, despite being in the 8-hole. So you combine that with, guys like Riley, Ozuna, d'Arnaud, and it's just a dangerous lineup. I'm with you. I think that this is another team where I'm hoping I get to them just because it makes sense given how popular Musgrove is, and Atlanta also is projected to go a little bit under-owned. Having not built lineups yet, I don't know for sure how much I'll get to, but I would certainly like to be there given Musgrove's ownership and just how good Atlanta is.
And then let's talk about Charlie Morton, his matchup against the Padres, because the Padres offense, it's not quite as good as we would have expected before the season because they don't have Fernando Tatis, one of the best players in baseball. And Morton is a pitcher who also had a really good year last year. I'm expecting a good year from him this year. He's not crazy popular relative to some other pitchers on the slate. So he's projected for 29% ownership at 9,300 on DraftKings. On FanDuel at 9K, he's projected for 15% ownership. Seems more than reasonable to me. I expect Morton's a pitcher. I'm going to end up with about 20 to 30% of my lineups. How do you feel about Morton today? And what are you going to be doing with the Padres on the other side?
Yeah, I like Morton. I mean, I think he's really good. And I like that he's popular, but he's just, he's pulling a little bit less than Gausman. He's pulling less than Ohtani and Musgrove, obviously a different price point, similar to Walker Buehler. So I'm not overly concerned about the ownership there. And like you said, it's not the best matchup against the Padres, but no Tatis does weaken that lineup quite a bit. Only a 4 implied run total there. Morton last year, 28.6% strikeout percentage. one of the highest on the slate. So I like getting there, and I think it's a little bit more difficult for me to get to the Padres than it is the Braves, just because I don't think there's quite as much uncertainty in Morton. Like I think Musgrove is good, but I think Morton's a better pitcher. So I think if I'm going to one of these teams, Atlanta's the one that I would get to first.
Yeah, totally on the same page. And just the variance that there is in Joe Musgrove. Now, here's the talking point that people have been waiting for. Coors Field, where we have the Colorado Rockies, who have the highest top stack odds of the entire slate, and also the most ownership by a mile on DraftKings. They are projected for 25% ownership with a 19% chance to be a top stack. Whereas over on FanDuel, we have the Colorado Rockies projected for 15% ownership, but a 16% chance to be a top stack. So different situation what we had earlier, because earlier in the day, they were negatively leveraged on DraftKings also, but on FanDuel, they were crazy negatively leveraged, actually positively leveraged right now on FanDuel. How are you going to be handling a team like the Rockies? And we'll start with the DraftKings. I do think the DraftKings talking point is a little more interesting because of the high top stack odds that are still negatively leveraged. How do you like to handle these situations in this one specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, they're not bad, obviously. They still have the second highest top stack odds. Not only that, it's kind of, it's them in Chicago, and then there's a pretty big drop to the Dodgers and Angels, and then another drop to everybody else. So there's not really a lot of comparable teams, at least in terms of chances of success, but we are projecting like 1/4 of the field to be there. And it's not like it's a very good offense. Obviously playing in Coors helps a lot, but you have Blackmon, Bryant, Crone. Other than that, these guys kind of suck. So, 5.8 implied run total in Colorado is not that special. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're a perfectly fine stack. They're also pretty cheap, but like from this game, I prefer the Cubs side, even though they're in the worst spot. I prefer the Cubs side, and I really don't mind just going to offenses that have actual good hitters instead of going to the Rockies.
And you mentioned Charlie. I don't even know if Charlie Blackmon's good anymore. He kind of sucked last year, so he might be on the decline also. But just given the high chance of probability of success for the Rockies, while even though it isn't as high as their top stack odds, do you see any viable way to really lower the ownership share and maybe make the amount of people that are on the stack a little more tenable, either by playing guys at the bottom of the order or maybe taking a pitcher that's a little contrarian? Are there any kind of those angles you look at with the Rockies and be like, oh, this is something that makes sense to me?
Let me get back to their ownership.
Yeah, so I'll read it off right now. We've got pretty high ownership across the board. We've got Jonathan Daza at the flat min is projected to be 6% owned. Ryan McMahon is projected for 14% ownership, but every other player, at least on the DraftKings site today, ownership projections are free tonight, is projected for 20% or more ownership.
Yeah, there's nothing that really stands out. I mean, I don't think like Jonathan Daza at 2K is 6% owned, and obviously he's really cheap, but I don't think you're going to be starving for value to where you need to just throw in a 9-hole Jonathan Daza here. So yeah, I don't really see like a contrarian way that you get to this team.
Not even, are there any, I guess, pitchers though? There's nobody crazy low owned. I will say that Severino probably makes more sense in Rocky stacks than does Musgrove or Ohtani, just from an ownership standpoint. But yeah, it's pretty hard to find ownership reprieve anywhere in this lineup. How about any interest in Justin Steele as a starting pitcher, just because the Rockies are going to be so popular?
A little bit. He's projected to be under-owned. I don't think he's horrible. I don't think he's good, but I do think the Rockies are pretty bad. But ultimately, I think I have trouble getting there just because it's not like you're going to really need the savings. And there's plenty of other cheap guys, whether you're talking about the popular guys with Ohtani and Musgrove, whether you're saving some salary and going to Severino or Dunning, or even, Greinke, Mize, like that aren't pitching in Coors Field. So I think that I probably don't really get there, even though I do like the idea of it.
Yeah, I think there's probably too much downside for me and not a need to roster a pitcher 5,400 for this reason. If I'm rostering a 5,400 pitcher, it's usually to pay up for Coors Field bats, but that's not going to make sense when it's to fade the Coors Field hitters. And we already have a bunch of pitchers, like Luis Severino, Dane Dunning, Joe Musgrove, Shohei Ohtani. We're not that desperate in salary savings for Justin Steele. So ultimately, I don't think I'm going to end up getting there.
And even when you look to a team like the Dodgers, for example, like maybe you're going to pay up to go there. They have like 2 expensive hitters.
Yeah. And then I want to ask you, though, just while we're on the topic of pitchers in this game, we're about to talk about the Cubs. The Cubs are going to be the offense I have the most exposure to today. I love them as a stack. But do you see any reason or logic to potentially wanting to get to Kyle Freeland? Because he is a quality starting pitcher that has had success at Coors Field in the past. And even if Seiya Suzuki is a great individual hitter, it's not like this Cubs offense is expected to be very good this year. So do you see any reason to get to Kyle Freeland at low ownership?
Pretty much the same answer as Justin Steele. Like, I think he's a better pitcher than Steele. He's also a little bit more expensive, but I just don't think I think I'm just going to find enough contrarian things I can do before I start rostering one of these two guys.
All right, so let's dig into the Cubs offense. I just said right there that given the current information we're looking at, I think the Cubs are probably going to end up being my highest owned stack when I run my next run of lineups after we finish the show. Is it going to be the same for you? Are the Cubs the number one priority stack?
That's how I see it right now, because they, at least on DraftKings, we have them basically where they should be, like 19% ownership share, 18% top stack percentage. When you combine, like, yes, they're high owned, but when you combine their chances of success with the ownership, you still get a pretty favorable situation. So I do think, at least the way things look right now, I end up getting to quite a bit of the Cubs.
Yeah, I see it the same way. I haven't really combed through my lineups to see where exactly I'm going to be, but we've got guys that are, while not great hitters, Patrick Wisdom's project for 9% ownership, Frank Schwindel 11%, Ian Happ 12%. The only player on this team project for over 20% ownership right now is Seiya Suzuki, and I think that he's going to be a very good hitter this year based on all the early indications. But I don't think guys like Ian Happ, Frank Schwindel, or Patrick Wisdom are that much worse than we're looking on the Rockies side of the game. The Rockies players are just infinitely more popular, and I don't really think they deserve to be. We got a lot of these Chicago hitters that have half the ownership of the Colorado guys. That's what makes it a little more appealing to me. But I want to ask you quick about the FanDuel side of this game also, because the Rockies do have a much lesser ownership share on FanDuel, where they're projected right now for 15% ownership as opposed to their high ownership on DK. How does that make you view the Rockies as a stack on FanDuel as opposed to the high ownership on DraftKings?
It makes them a lot more similar to the Cubs, because you're basically just viewing them through the same lens that you're viewing the Cubs on DraftKings. Like, Colorado actually projected to be a little bit under-owned there. So I think on FanDuel, like, if you can, you're just going to be stacking both sides of this game a lot, because both teams are, at the top in terms of chances of success, but neither team's getting a ton of ownership, because you have a lot more going to the Dodgers. You have a lot going to Pittsburgh. You have 2 more games on the slate. So it ends up making them both look a little bit better, combined, but Colorado in particular just looking better on FanDuel.
All right, let's move on to the final game of the slate, the Los Angeles Dodgers at home against the Cincinnati Reds. Walker Buehler, I'm kind of surprised he isn't more popular on this slate right now. He is, to me at least, the safest pitcher going today. $9,700 on DK. He is projected for 28% ownership. On FanDuel, where he's 10,500, he's only projected for 12% ownership. Just kind of looking at this slate at first glance, I thought Walker Buehler was going to be really chalky, but not exactly the case relative to other pitchers on a smaller slate. So how do you view Buehler at home against the Reds?
I view him pretty similarly to Morton, where, like, he's not optimal in the sense that, like, I can just play Musgrove and Ohtani for a lot less and then play, like, whatever hitters I want. But you're also just going to have enough cheap bats that you can get to where you can get to Buehler really easily. I do like the spot for him. I think he's obviously a very, very good pitcher. Last year, struck out 26% of hitters, 3.57 xFIP. All of that, looks good pitching at home. Reds only a 3.1 implied run total. I assume you're getting like 80, 85 pitches, something like that from Buehler. Makes him look really, really good. I'm certainly happy to get to as much as I can.
Yeah, and I don't have any interest in the Reds offense going against them. Even if Buehler was super popular on this slate, I don't think I'd have that much desire to get to Cincinnati, but especially considering that Buehler's sub 30% owned, I can't envision myself making Red stacks. Probably the least appealing team on the slate. They do have the lowest top stack odds. Are the Reds a team that you see any reason to get to, even if it's just for low ownership?
I really don't.
Fair enough. So I think we're on the same page there. And then on the other side, Luis Sessa is going to be pitching for Cincinnati, but this is just basically going to be a bullpen game. And we're looking at the Dodgers now as being the most negatively leveraged stack on the entire slate. They are projected for 18% ownership on DraftKings with a 10.6% chance to be the top stack. And then over on FanDuel, where there's more teams, they still have comparable ownership, but lower odds to be a top stack. I don't feel great about it, but given the ownership information, I am not going to want to get to the Dodgers here. How are you going to be handling this team when they're just uber chalky?
Yeah, it sucks because they're underpriced. They're really good. Like, this is the type of team that I would really like to get to just because they're good. Like, give me Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Will Smith over everybody on the Cubs, basically. Like,
Yeah.
I would really prefer to get to the Dodgers, but like you were saying, everybody agrees with that. So you're getting a team that just doesn't have the same chances of success. That is still slightly more popular than the Cubs on FanDuel, and about the same on DraftKings. So, or sorry, also slightly more popular on DraftKings. So the way things look right now, it's just they're still good plays. Like, if you have contrarian pitching in your lineup, if you have like a contrarian 5-man stack, mix in some Dodgers, all that's fine. But right now they do look like they're going a little bit over-owned compared to their chances of success.
And then kind of a similar question I'm going to ask you about the Dodgers, same as I asked you with the Rockies. Do you see any way that you could roster the Dodgers and make them a viable contrarian stack, even if something like mix them in with Kyle Freeland or any other low-owned pitcher or lower-owned hitters in this lineup? Lower-owned hitters actually don't really exist in the Dodgers lineup today. But is there anything like that you see viable for this slate?
Bellinger and Lux are pretty useful. Like, they're cheap. They are still fine. Bellinger's at 9% on DraftKings. Lux is at 6%. Even Justin Turner is at 10%. So the Dodgers are a little bit different because, like, the highest owned guy is Trey Turner at 27. Betts is at 20. You have Freeman and Muncy at like 16 and 15. But like, guys in the teens, I think, are a little bit easier to like deal with than when you're talking about, like the Rockies where everybody was 25% owned or something like that. So it is, a little bit better. And then you do have Bellinger and Lux. So I think going that route, and then like you said, whether it doesn't have to be Freeland necessarily, but like, using Dane Dunning or using Greinke or something. Not that I love those guys, but if you're getting with the Dodgers, then it makes it a little bit better.
If the Dodgers go off tonight, which is somewhat likely, it's going to be the death of me. Like, these are just the stands I take on baseball slates. There's a lot of variance, and I just don't generally want to play teams that are this negatively leveraged. This is right now, in terms of the latest updates we had, one of the more negatively leveraged teams we've seen on the entire year. And it's the same kind of situations we have with the Atlanta Braves lately, where they played a series where they were, what was their ownership in that series against the Nats? Like, pretty regularly, a team that was projected for like 20+% ownership as a team with 10% top stack odds. I hardly played them at all that series. They went off for 17 runs one game. That went very poorly for me. But the other two games where they sucked, I did really well on those slates. And I think this is how I have to view the Dodgers as well. So I'm going to ask now just one final question before we wrap up here. When it comes to the Dodgers with all this negative leverage, is it a team that you think you're more likely to be underweight to the field or just barely stacking, if not at all?
So one thing I wanted to mention, chat pointed it out. Gavin Lux isn't in the lineup. I was looking at ownership projections and not the actual lineup when I was talking. So don't play Gavin Lux even at 2% owned. It's Anzer Alberto instead, batting ninth. I think that's less appealing than Gavin Lux just in terms of power. But as far as getting over the field, again, haven't built lineups, but just looking at the information and knowing how my lineups typically turn out, I assume I'm going to end up just not getting too much of the Dodgers.
We do have one super chat here from Jeff Williams. We'll answer this and then we'll sign off for the night and hand it over to Live Before Lock. Guys, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and don't go anywhere because Live Before Lock will be on next. But Jeff Williams is asking us, who are the top two projected pitchers on DK tonight for us? He says he's confused why Musgrove is projected on DK higher than Buehler. So for me, if you're just asking me which two pitchers do I think should just have the highest projection, just nothing else considered, like no ownership, just raw fantasy points, I would say Walker Buehler 1 and Shohei Ohtani 2. I do, with Buehler, though, part of it is going to be it's hard to know the pitch counts for the Dodgers pitchers because we saw yesterday Clayton Kershaw was pitching a perfect game through 7 innings and they still took him out. So that is something a little concerning at the top of the season for the Dodgers. But just raw points, if you told me I could roster anybody on the slate and salary was no concern, I would have Walker Buehler in there. But just raw points, Adam, who would you have 1-2 for starting pitchers on DK?
Yeah, I mean, that's the concern with Buehler is because in his first start, he threw 78 pitches, 5 innings, but it's hard to know with the Dodgers. Are they just playing you're going 5 innings or, is he going to be able to throw 85 pitches? But I'm with you. I think for me, it's Buehler and Ohtani.
All right. That is going to do it for us. Guys, good luck today. Fade the chalk, and hopefully we don't get our asses kicked today as per usual. Stick around, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Live Before Lock is next.
Strange Gordon scratched. Sad times.
No. He might need Tommy John.
I'm going to say, can he still go out and pitch in relief if needed? Oh, man. We'll see. Welcome, everybody, to MLB Live Before Lock, presented by OddsShopper. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be talking this Thursday 6/8 game, or depending on where you're playing, we're going to talk FanDuel. We're going to talk DraftKings. We're going to talk everything you guys need here. But first, smash that like button. If not for us, for the guys that just got done doing a fantastic job, Adam and Greg, good to catch a little bit of their analysis, but it's our analysis time. I'm going to be doing that with my buddy Gundacker over here, Anthony Gundacker. Anthony, I had to remember what your first name was. I was doing the run sheet, and I got to it. I was like, his name's Anthony. That's a beautiful name. I love that. Anthony Gundacker, leader of the people into the baseball slate. How you doing, my dude?
That's the most I've heard my government name in like years, bro. My mama don't even call me Anthony. She call me Gun. God dang it. No.
She calls you Gun?
Yeah, my girl calls me Gun too, man.
Yeah. I bet she does.
Oh, okay. Quick. That didn't take long.
Daniela, Ella, A.
Yeah, so I'm excited for baseball. Hopefully Yankees can tie up that little series against the Toronto Vladimirians. And then I've done a lot of diving. I'm ready to crunch my laps, just waiting for the Reds. Once the Reds come out, we'll be booming.
Yeah, I was gonna say we just got one word and D Gordon in the 9-hole. Get him out of your lineups on FanDuel. We don't really have to worry about that on DraftKings. I don't know why you would play him on FanDuel, but such is life. He was 2K. 2K is 2K, I suppose. But let's get right into it, Gun. I'm looking at weather. I don't really see any weather concerns. I know we were watching Toronto and New York. I think everything's good to go there. Just wanted to talk weather right from the get-go because this is Live Before Lock. We want to give the people all the information possible. Does anything stick out to you on the weather front?
Nah, we were looking at the Yankee game, but nothing that I'm running from.
Nope. Same here. So that's the quickest segment in the history of the show. Once again, we'll talk about a little bit OddsShopper here at the halfway point. We have 30 minutes, though. I believe 30 minutes. People are talking about, 30 minutes until the FanDuel lock. So I think we got to fly. We got to get going 2 pitchers right away here. I'll talk a little bit of DraftKings here, FanDuel as well in the 30-minute section leading up to it here. We just simply have 2 other games that we have to consider some pitching options. But I'm going to ask you point blank, who is your favorite pitcher on the board today?
Overall, I got Walker Buehler as my top graded pitcher.
Okay.
Just upside versus porous matchup. So he's my highest zone. Just trying to take that solid floor.
Yeah, I think that he's a great play. 9,700, most expensive guy over on DK. I'm going to hit refresh here because I know he's around 33% top pitcher percentage. Came down a tiny bit from this morning on him. He was sitting around the 26, 27 range. Now he's sitting down at 23, which, by the way, MLB main slate ownership projections completely free to you today. You don't have the top pitchers tool. You don't have the top stacks tool. I'll be sure that I reference those throughout these shows because I feel like they're 2 of, if not the 2 best tools we have at Awesemo.com. No doubt about it. Our data team's ridiculous. And the amount of work that goes into these things. Yes. All right. Walker Buehler, 23.4% top 2 pitcher percentage, 33% ownership. I'm with you. I don't know if that pitch count really goes beyond 85, but against this Reds lineup that just looks different without Winker, it looks a little bit different without Eugenio Suarez. Maybe not the last year edition of him, but still, I am with you. I think that Walker Buehler makes a lot of sense. I think he's more of a safety valve. Shohei Ohtani has to be my guy, though. Even at 10-8 on FanDuel, I'm not finding it that cost prohibitive to build lineups with him. Are you?
No. I on both sides, Coors is just way too cheap for some reason. So you're really just able to go out there and grab anyone.
Yeah, if Coors goes off, I'm in a lot of trouble. I mean, the Cubs side I'm on for sure, but the Rocky side, we'll get to all the ins and outs of it here. I basically had a conniption looking through everything that I was trying to say about Colorado Rockies. My brain just was not functioning this morning is what it comes down to. And it's nice that I have Greg and then I have you pulling the weight, the absolute dead weight that is me on these baseball shows.
Nah, man. We love you, you know.
I'm great sometimes, but I'm going to continue on. I really do think Walker Buehler, Shohei Ohtani are going to be the linchpins of my lineups. Of lineups. There's alliteration. I like that. Kevin Gausman, though, is somebody that I've come up a little bit on in the last 7-8 hours since we did the deeper dive this morning, or the strategy show, this morning, Greg Ehrenberg and myself. How do you feel about Kevin Gausman? And I'll also throw Luis Severino, both of these pitchers in this game that both offenses are going underowned, and both pitchers, I think people are going to be shy to go completely ham with.
We've kind of seen that throughout this whole series. People skittish on the pitchers, skittish on the bats. And hey, man, unstoppable force, immovable object. Some will cave in. If you, if you were scared last night, you missed out on Vladdy Jr., Judge, Rizzo. There's still some points worth having there. So I'm kind of playing both sides of the fence, and the ownership out there is allowing me to do so without giving up too much equity in every spot. I'm not getting to Severino. He has been really, really struggling with health lately. So I can't imagine that they're going to be aggressive in boosting his pitch count. He went 65 last game. So I'm just kind of thinking 75 might be the tops here. As soon as Cole got to 85 pitches last night, Booney went out there and hooked him. So I would imagine Severino's wrapped in bubble wrap here. So I do, however, have some Gausman. Gausman last year, obviously one of the best seasons of his season. With that,
one of the best seasons of his season.
One of the best seasons of his career.
That was an Ericism if I've ever heard one.
Okay. Of course, this means war. You better not mess up
Eric
for the rest of this stream.
Anthony Lindquist. Which one do you want to go? What would be our couple name? Lindacker? No,
I'm not going to dignify this conversation, so I'm just going to drink until
until I shut up. Okay, no, that's not going to happen. Gunquist. Oh, it's definitely Gunquist. Jordan Klein coming in the clutch, per usual. Jordan Klein, the hardest working man in the industry, named Jordan Klein. I don't think it's remotely close. I'm okay with it. Kevin Gausman, scary spot for sure. He also ran about as good as you can possibly run in San Francisco. Great ballpark, all of the above. But I do believe that there have been some considerable changes. Hard to imagine he just forgets what he was working on in San Francisco. So I think there's reason for success there. I want to talk Charlie Morton, though, because if on FanDuel, like specifically on FanDuel, if I'm trying to find a way to really overinvest in a guy compared to where I'm looking at on DK, he's 9,600 on the FanDuel slate. He's really one of the only pieces of positive leverage that we can get. He's only going 4% owned over on that slate. 11.3% because he's 9K as opposed to Gausman, who's 9,600. I think Charlie Morton's a guy that's just showing up in a lot more lineups for me. I don't believe in the San Diego team. Are you with me here?
Yeah, and like you said, the FanDuel side is where I'm getting more Morton. I think his ability to go out there and give you a shot at those 6 innings, those quality starts, and maybe scoop a win. Not really over implying either side for a win since it's projected to be low scoring. But on FanDuel, where it's not strictly efficiency, we are giving some weight to the ability to go out there and get through innings. You're not getting taxed for hits. And it's just Ernie's, K's, and quality starts, right? And I think Morton kind of checks the boxes on all that. And the Padres without Fernando Tatis certainly have been underwhelming, to say the least. And, even with some of these guys like Nola, Machado, Cronenworth, even Profar, not bolstering high K rates, if they're going to make contact, ground out, and help Charlie eat those innings, then I think Charlie Morton's definitely more valuable on FanDuel, and I do have a pretty decent chunk of them over there, and I also have some on DraftKings. He's not off limits on DraftKings. I just think his value is stronger on FanDuel.
It's kind of the same way that I feel about it. 32% in our last run over on DK on the DraftKings slate. Obviously, you're going to see everybody see a little bit more ownership because you can roster 2 pitchers. It makes sense. All right. We've talked about the stud. Shohei Ohtani has a broken tag on DK. I'm getting to tons of him, though, on both sites just because I believe in the arm talent. Texas, sure, you get Corey Seager. Sure, you get some decent bats at the top, but my God, the bottom half of that lineup is just delicious in terms of targetings for Ks. What are we looking to do to get different on a 2-pitcher side on DK? Because again, on FanDuel, I think my pool is going to stay relatively small. I'm not going down to the likes of a Casey Mize or a Luis Severino or anybody like that over on FanDuel. But I want to take some of these shots as SP2s on DraftKings. Who would be your favorite contrarian pitcher options today over there?
On DraftKings specifically?
On DraftKings specifically.
All right, let's get a pulse on the most recent ownership so I can answer accordingly. So
that is such a good idea.
Yeah. Looking at the lower end, I think Dane Dunning is as low as I'm going here versus our We got him at a 15% chance to win a top 2 pitcher with a 10% ownership. I have some of him. I do think he's cheap enough against an Angels lineup that is Ohtani, Trout, and then and here's some names here. So I'm hoping for like double-digit points, get to 10, give me maybe some hitter points. So I am getting there. I'm not expecting the world. He did not bolster a great swing and strike rate, to say the least, in his first start. But we also know that the Toronto Blue Jays are kind of good. So I don't want to overreact to that. Last year, he did have a pretty great ground ball rate. So if he could steal some strikeouts against Marsh, Stassi, Jose Rojas, Andrew Velasquez, all those guys have about a 30% K rate. So at 6.4 K, if we could steal some strikeouts here, keep the earnings to 3 or less. I think at 6,400, he'll fall into the SB2 spot just to get different, just for the sake of different.
And that's what it is. I mean, there's only so many pitchers on this slate. If this were a 12-game slate, would I be thinking about some of these other guys on the bottom end? Probably not. I doubt Dane Dunning would be a guy. I don't even remember what I said about him this morning. I just don't think there was much to say. I will say his ownership's come up a tiny bit. He's around 10% here now in the top 2 pitchers tool. He's at 15%. So I'm okay getting to a little bit there. There's some value to be had. And this Angels lineup aside from Trout and, whatever edition of Rendon we get this season, you've got a lot of Ks that could show up in that lineup and definitely elevates his floor. Probably my favorite sub 7K guy. Actually, I know for a fact he is my only really rostered 7K guy.
No.
Anything else that you really want to discuss on pitching? Because I want to get to stacks for all the FanDuel people so that we can cover a little bit of positionality over there. Pricing's pretty soft, so I think it'll be all right. But anything else from pitching whatsoever?
Nah, it's looking like all the top 7 owned guys, other than Severino. Severino's the only guy I'm not playing that has, double-digit ownership right now. Everyone else is in line with my rankings. And once we get past Dunning, the Greinke's, Mize, Freeland, Steels, and the Cincy combos, they're just not in my pool.
Yep, I'm totally with you. Also, something I'm sure that you're with me on is that Awesemo is a great place to get tools and content. $29.95 here for the weekly pass currently. That includes player projections, ownership projections. I said those ownership projections are free today, so definitely be checking those out. We have the lineup builder. We have for whatever sport you're looking for, whether that's MMA, PGA, obviously NBA is still going strong. We're going to be doing live before lock for that again tomorrow. Looking forward to covering some hoops over there. But right now, the MLB package, $4.95 for the week, and the weekly pass for every sport, $29.95. Take advantage of that. So stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo Plus today. All right, to stacks we go. I'm refreshing the top stacks tool. Looking here over on FanDuel specifically, just because I want to make sure we get as much as we can in there in the next 20 minutes. Cubs, Dodgers, both of them just barely over 10% top stack potential, both massive amounts of negative leverage. I'm going to ask you this straight out. I'll put Colorado in the pool too. If you had to go to one of the 3 chalkiest offenses on this slate, that being the Cubs, Dodgers, or Rockies, which one are you building for one lineup on FanDuel?
Probably the Cubs.
Okay. That's a great idea. Do you want to sell me on such an idea? I would love if you would continue talking.
Yeah, okay.
So that I can build my freaking
I'm doing the same thing, man.
I know you are.
Right,
it's one of those things. It's like I boss need the info.
all right. Yeah, open-ended questions. Let's go. All right, yeah. So we're splitting hairs here, but the Cubs I just think are generally, and this is both sides, but they're probably too cheap. Coors considered. Now, there used to be a time back in my day, Eric, where if you went,
I'm like
Coors,
5 years older than you.
How old are you?
34.
We're the same age.
Oh,
okay. All right. Well, back in our day, okay. If you went to Coors, you were just 5K for no reason, right? We're not seeing that anymore. And
no, we're not.
Because of that, we're almost obligated to respect these stacks a little bit more.
Respect my authority. No,
says to give him time, then interrupts me.
This is what I do.
What do you
do? You ever watched a show at Awesemo.com that I've been on?
Yeah. Okay.
Come on.
So yes, Cubs. I like the Cubs here. They're the road team, bunch of at-bats. Clint Frazier, Nick Madrigal, Jonathan VR. Guys like VR, we can maybe neutralize the strikeout potential with Freeland, who only has an 8.5% swing and strike rate overall. Schwindel, big numbers. Seiya Suzuki. His power numbers overseas literally rivaled and were better than Ohtani. So we're starting to get a taste of that. And on FanDuel, still a little too cheap. So 1 through 5 of the Cubs lineup looking really, really solid. The top of the bomb detector loves Patrick Wisdom, but he's batting ninth. So I don't know how many at bats I'm getting against Freeland here, but I think the Cubs would be the team I'm edging the most here. And I love Chris Bryant and CJ Cron if we want to run it back, for NFL purposes.
Yeah, and get the run back in the old uncorrelated stacks. I mean, I guess game environment is correlated. So Coors Field, both teams are there. Guess it's more correlated. I'm done talking. I'm with you. I think I think Chicago is my preferred stack here just because they're getting a little bit lower ownership. I mean, the Dodgers have just really, really boosted up since this morning. And that makes me very, very nervous. My game plan coming into this slate was just pure fade Colorado, play Chicago Cubs, play Dodgers, move on with my day. I don't know if I can necessarily do that when I'm getting negative 7.6 leverage on the Dodgers here. So I'm going to have to find some other stacks to go to. And that's where I think the Angels, not so much Pittsburgh. I mean, I get why the ownership is there on Pittsburgh. I'm just not finding myself needing to save the money. Maybe the Cubs are just going to be far more popular than what we're expecting, but I don't think so. So I'm with you. Cubs, my preferred team. Let's talk other stacks outside of those. Are you still going to get to some Dodgers and Rocky stacks?
Yes, I'm a scumbag. Okay. I'm getting to half the slate.
But there's that. It's an 8-game slate on FanDuel. It makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's continue down the board here. I like the Angels. Obviously, there's leverage to be had over on FanDuel. That looks nice. Same thing with Atlanta. But the Toronto Blue Jays are just criminally underowned on FanDuel. And I don't know. Did you see Vlad Guerrero hit 3 home runs against, I can't remember which baseball team. Which baseball team was it that he hit 3 home runs against last night?
Say Vlad last. Nah, I didn't catch that. Was that yesterday?
No. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. If I checked, I think I checked the news correctly. I think he had 3 home runs.
Junior or senior? There's 2 of them.
No, I think it was the junior edition.
What
was that team? I can't remember. Oh, no, it couldn't have been the Yankees. The Yankees are good.
Yeah, this bit's gone on too long.
It could have gone on longer, and I would have been equally as satisfied. It's so fun.
Hey, did you guys see who Clayton Kershaw pitched against yesterday? He was,
that's all right.
What is he? Okay.
That's all right. We didn't spend $400 million.
Garrett Cole's top 5 pitcher.
You're out of your mind.
The metrics.
You're out of your mind. The fact that he is the AL Cy
There's
Young
2 people yesterday that had more
criminal
whiffs than Garrett Cole in the day. One of them was Kershaw. Garrett Cole had 2 mistakes to Vladdy Jr. Everything else was Jim.
Team McBee has the right idea here. I forget who they played, but the third one just landed in my yard in Jersey. That's fantastic. I know you guys, for those who don't know, I mean, just look at his ball cap there, or hoodie, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I call sweatshirts zippies. I don't really know what to say about myself. The hat that you were wearing. Anyway, we're going to move on with it. Again, that's enough. That's enough pitter pattering. Who's your favorite next tier of stack to get to here? For me, it makes a lot of sense to get to a lot of Angels. I'm also well over on the Philadelphia Phillies. Who are your favorite contrarian stacks?
Well, define a lot of Angels, because you can't play the main one, right?
Yeah.
Past that is like Trout, and then you're just kind of like, okay.
Rendon.
Yeah,
Marsh.
You said it, not me. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
You love him? All right.
It's fine. I mean, I will say Max Stassi has a lot of utility on DK.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, past the top, the obvious, we're talking Cubs, Dodgers, Rockies. Yeah, I'm with you in the theory that Toronto and even the Yankees they've just been really, really low on this whole series. And I get it. Both pitchers look good on paper, but sometimes just great bats do great things. So I do like them. Maybe I'm the crazy guy in the room, but believe it or not, I have some interest in the Rangers tonight against Ohtani. We've seen some spots so far this season where it's high stake pitchers after one game. You can Darvish the next slate. The Rangers, while they're the Rangers on the surface, we're getting a lot of ISO numbers against righties the last couple of years. Brad Miller, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Mitch Garver, Adolis Garcia. You pop the lid on Globe Life, roof is open. Hey, man, bad things happen to good people. Ohtani has shown an ability to give up some power, 1.6 home run per nine last year. So kind of, our boy called the Athletics the other night against, the Rays here. If we're going to get a situation where we can get access to some decent ISO numbers against a good pitcher, I'll take a gamble on it. So I do get to some Ranger stacks.
God, I missed you. I just missed you. That's really all it comes to. Zippy Quackers, Zippies, Zippy. Nobody knows what that bit was. If you know, you know. If you don't, you're just making something up here at this point. But also, most of you probably know. We've got 1,000 of you in. Hard to believe that not a lot of you have been on some NBA streams once or twice here in the Awesemo.com streets. But if you haven't been, we would love if you hit that like button and subscribe button, most importantly. That way you stay tuned to everything that we offer over here. 12 minutes to go here. Let's keep it moving. You talked about contrarian stacks. I like the Texas Rangers call. We saw, it only happens 2 or 3 times a season. Greg, I believe, listed off the 3 examples of it on the earlier show that we did together. And it makes a lot of sense to look at Ohtani, the walk numbers out of the middle of nowhere. He can just lose command. Mm-hmm. And then the Yankees just shell him like they did once upon a time. That same exact example could happen in Texas. In terms of game environments, it's not 95, 100-degree Texas that you normally would have in the summer, but relative to the other game environments, 74 degrees is 10 degrees warmer than just about any other spot. Surely Coors is still the best game environment, but just throwing it out there. Don't completely hate it, even though the wind's blowing in 10 miles an hour. Any other contrarian stack that you've got your eye on? We only have so many options, so many places to go. I guess the better question would be, is there anything you're vehemently against playing in the stacks department?
No, right now I don't have any interest in the Reds, but 1%, if 150, 3 lineups end up with a 5-man red stack to hedge your Bueller exposure. I don't hate it, but I don't have any really stake in the Reds right now. So that would be one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, just wanted to throw that out there because we've got 11 minutes to go. We're going to go position by position on FanDuel. Then we're going to jump over and concentrate quite a bit on DraftKings. So let's talk through the FanDuel position by position here so everybody can get all the information they need to round out their lineups for that lock. And then we'll focus on DraftKings until it would be 7:05 p.m. Eastern time for all of you out on the East Coast, 4:05 for me in make-believe land out here on the West Coast. Dodger home opener, though. Good times. Let's go. Your highest owned catcher / first baseman on FanDuel today?
CJ Cron.
All right. And mine's Schwindel, but I'm not playing. I'm playing 20 lineups just in that main tournament. I just wanted to have some lineups over there. I'm primarily playing over on DK. So throwing him out there. Second base.
Trey Turner.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Whit Merrifield for me, a way to get very, very different. Kansas City, him, Bobby Witt. Those are guys that I'm playing a lot of 2-man, 1-man games. 4-3-1, 4-4 tends to be the way to go. But just because I can't really fine tune everything here, I'm just letting it run, letting it come out the way that it will. And then the family, Matty Gall from the Cubs, number 2, Nick Madrigal, throwing him in there. No, third base, go.
Chris Bryant.
Makes sense. Bobby Witt for me. And then Yoshi Tsutsugo. I love that. Shortstop, go.
So obviously Trey Turner's going to get 2, but Javi Baez also up there. I actually kind of like him for a homer today against a non-K pitcher, right?
Javi Baez for a homer? Okay. Okay. Well, it makes sense. He either strikes out like 80% of the time or he hits a home run. That's not accurate. I'm just throwing it out there. I know I'm being sarcastic, but that's what Javi Baez does.
Yeah.
Like a 40% K rate. But let's keep it going to outfield. Give me your 3 highest owned outfielders for today.
Suzuki, Clint Frazier, Connor Joe.
Hey, Joe.
That's weird. And then those are like, I have a lot of coagulated ownership at the top, but I'm also not going crazy on FanDuel today. And then as we dip a little deeper, I do have some taste of the Rangers outfield and Brad Miller up there as well.
Okay, Brad Miller. Shout out Brad Miller. There's definitely going to be some Brad Miller in my life here too for Texas. I'm all right with that against Ohtani as a one-off, but don't want to go nuts with it. That kind of covers position by position for FanDuel. If you guys have any other specific questions there, that was just something that I felt like needed to get done. It's not very often that we're going to have these split slates on multiple sites, but it made the most sense to help everybody build the FanDuel lineups. Because once again, Gun and I are playing too. We're trying to get the lineups in and give you guys the best information we possibly can. And best of luck to all of us here tonight. Looking forward to this slate on FanDuel. Anything else to kind of cover on that slate before we jump to DraftKings?
I mean, I would probably make a point to get to some Alcantara. Then that's basically it.
Okay.
Philly stacks could be a problem, but Alcantara I think has a little bit of a ceiling worth chasing.
I would agree with that.
So I would get some exposure to it.
He's good at throwing baseballs. I'm just finishing my lineups, getting everything in there. Do. Phenomena. Should be good. Why is Hoy Jun Park showing up in lineups? I thought I removed you from a pool. That's a thing. That was frustrating. It's all right.
Can you get a Hoy? Yeah.
It's not so bad. I like it.
Right,
I like what you did.
Yeah.
There's been better, but there's also been worse.
I was making hot pockets and I thought about a bit for Hoy Park. Hoy, yeah. There's something there. Let me work on it next time.
Okay. That manifest greatness, please. Manifest the greatness that we need from you. And in the meantime, I'm going to talk about Odd Shopper here. Wow, I hit the submit button on my lineups for FanDuel. Finishing that up here. Oh boy, we're just getting back in a rhythm building lineups live on shows. It's super easy for NBA. MLB can be a little bit trickier. Usually I get them done before the show. Shout out to myself, making sure that I do that from now on. But Odd Shopper,
if you
guys are looking, what?
Did you just shout yourself out? You can't do that. That's against the. I'm sorry. Continue.
Why not? It's called self-confidence,
Gundacker. I told you. You came at me, brother. I'm coming right back. You better not ever mess up ever again. Go. What about Odd Shopper? I'm interested.
Yeah, make your best bets in 30 seconds or less using oddshopper.com. Odd Shopper features hundreds of bets daily. They'll give you an edge you need, not just in NBA, not just in NHL, but MLB will be coming very, very soon. Expected win percentages, ROIs, everything you could possibly want for betting purposes, not just at sportsbooks, but for sites like Prize Picks, other places like that. We have parlay builders. We have arbitrage betting, which, if you don't know, that's where you're guaranteed because you're able to bet on one book, you bet on a different book, and you're guaranteed to win so long as you get the equal amount or the correct amount of money on both sides of the coin to be able to get paid off. You want to take advantage of this. Checking out Odd Shopper now. Get familiar with the site before the MLB tools really get live over there. If you haven't checked it out for NBA either, whether for the play-in games, for the playoffs starting up here this weekend, you are missing out. You will definitely be missing out. Sort by expected win percentage, expected ROI. Go find some bets. Take advantage of risk-free tools that we have, risk-free bets that we have, promotions from sports books that we have on the site. Simply go to our site, find some of those promos, take advantage of them, and win money using Odd Shopper, using the tools from Alex Baker, Steve Buzzard, Eddie Lai, the smartest, brightest minds here in DFS, now helping you out in the betting streets. So stop guessing, start winning. Join us at Awesemo, but do it through Odd Shopper, the best place to find bets in 30 seconds or less. Oh boy, Blue Jays Yankees will be delayed due to rain on Thursday. Initial reaction.
It's usually a good thing when they delay, right? They're just finding a better pocket to play through, hopefully. But I guess it's worth doing a little bit of due diligence.
That's the hope. Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a. We're gonna be searching here quick. I am taking a look. It's in our book, Reading Rainbow.
It's the last of the series, so they probably forced it to get in.
Yeah, they'll. Well, I mean, it's also a team that you're going to play how many more times? 20 before the end of the year. That always freaks me out.
Not just last year, man. Next year, no more.
Next year, no more. Really?
No more. Every team plays every team starting next year.
Oh, well, that's fun. I'm just trying to find anything. Do we have any information? News God will be keeping us apprised. I know all the time here. I think we're going to be okay. Radar looks fine to me. It's weird. They're stopping this game. I'm surprised. Is it raining by you, Terry? Blink twice if it's raining. Okay. It's supposed to rain and then stop. Okay. Then it's supposed to stop raining in 3 hours. 3 hours is a long time to wait for this baseball game. I'm just throwing it out there.
It's going to be a lot cooler in 3 hours, ain't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's how temperature works.
Yeah, not yet, but darker. All right. Bad storms for next 90 minutes, they say. That's Chris Chris Karen coming in from the rafters, helping us out here.
He's not even supposed to be here.
He's not even supposed to be. Good reference. But we continue on. Rain until 8. I'm in New York. All right. That's great. Hopefully it shuts off. Hopefully they'll be able to play. As I said, it freaks me out a tiny bit just because these teams play a bunch and you could just easily get a doubleheader if need be. But I got to assume that they just want to have a clean beginning of the season and just keep it going. So just be on the lookout for it. There's really nothing you can do. That game locks at 7:05 p.m. Eastern time. So just be on the lookout here. Once we'll be leading you guys all the way up to lock. So I'll keep that on the back burner, but let's head on over to DraftKings here. Let's focus on the pitching specifically for DraftKings.com. And I just started with it from the get-go. Shohei Ohtani, 7,900 is a broken, and I mean broken tag against this Rangers lineup. How much Shohei are you getting to over on DraftKings.com today?
So I haven't capped at 40 right now, but I haven't crunched yet, but that's my cap. I imagine I'll get to a lot of it. But like I said, I do have, right now I have 6% Ranger stack. So I'm not all in, but the price is messed up. Like he could have a not great game and still give you 14 and be just fine at that price.
Yeah, I have 95% of him. So I'm hoping he pitches well. Just that's the impression that I get is that I want Shohei Ohtani to pitch well. Why is he 7,900? It's one of those spots where I just don't really want to even get cute. I'll just jam. He's 38%. I'm just going to jam and I'll live with the result of it here. On FanDuel, even, I'm just accepting the leverage. My day is going to be very wrapped up in Shohei Ohtani. And hey, the 5% of lineups that I'm going to get to without Shohei are probably going to be Ranger stacks. So here we go. That's going to be whoop-de-doo, Basil. What does it all mean? Well, it means that my night hinges on him. So just fine with it. Moving down the rest of the board, Kevin Gausman, Joe Musgrove, Walker Buehler, you talked about really liking. I'm assuming you're still in on him at the $9,700 tag over there, correct?
Yeah, the price is almost literally a non-factor today for me because of course, unfortunately.
What does it mean if I play DFS like a Chad? I know Chad is like a negative connotation thing, but also
like an Australian thing, like a maybe a male Karen or something.
A male Karen. Whatever. You can go check my page. I'm okay at it. Let's keep it going. Rest of pitchers here. Anybody on the cheap end? We talked about Dunning being kind of the punt on the DraftKings side of it. This mid-range, we've got Zach Greinke. If you want to try to make that a thing, I'm sure not today. Luis Severino. I'm just so worried about that pitch count. That's why we've also seen the ownership drop. He was like around 20% or so earlier today, and that made no damn sense to me considering just 3 innings pitched. Looked good in those 3 innings, but I just can't go nuts on him at 7,400 when I have so many other guys that I'll just take my chances on a stretched out Joe Musgrove, Charlie Morton, these guys. I'm just going to play them a bunch rather than try to get cute with any Severino. Are you kind of doing the same thing, or is there somebody that you're getting to quite a bit over the field on in this mid-range?
No, I like I said, I'm pretty much out on Severino, and I just think you mentioned Musgrove and Ohtani are way too close in price to Severino. With pitch counts are better, and a little bit more trustworthy history here. And now we're not dealing with rain concerns, so I don't have any Severino there. The lowest I'm getting on DK is Dane Dunning, but that's going to be a very small sample. There's busted pricing through and through that I don't have to really spend too much time ranking pitchers points per dollar, and I'll just take the points here. And then I've not found a stack that I can't get to with the pitching that I want today.
OB1, male Karens are called Kevins. I didn't know that. I thought it was a Chad still. I don't know. Maybe not.
I call them dirt bags, and that's it.
Yes, I got Eric to just play. No, I'm just thought I would reference it. It's something to talk about. We have 6 games for an MLB slate. I'm used to covering like 14 game MLB slates. This is nothing.
Oh, yeah, no, this is day off.
Chris Caramel, what? Yeah. I'm going to get back to talking baseball here before I get in trouble. But we've talked about all of these guys for the most part. Dane Dunning, that's about all there really needs to be discussed here. I'm ready to jump to stacks if you are.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's talk some DraftKings stacks this time around rather than just your prototypical FanDuel ones here. And not that it's going to be that dissimilar. The Cubs are going to be a team that I get to quite a bit there. 13.8% top stack potential. there's certain guys, you get Yan Gomes in this lineup, giving you a little bit of salary relief rather than having to deal, finding 4,800 to get up to Contreras. So Yan Gomes in that lineup makes it very palatable to land on Cubs and still get to Ohtani, still get to, Walker Buehler with pretty much any amount you want. Charlie Morton as well unlocks the entire 9K pitching board. So I'm here on the Cubs. Nothing's really changed from you site to site with them, has it?
No, Cubs and Rockies are my top 2 stacks in terms of personal ownership at 18% split down the middle.
Okay.
Or 36, whatever.
Or 36 or 5 or carry the 1. 18. That's fine.
Definitely.
Colorado. Please do not go crazy, Colorado, because on DraftKings, it is like I have a dangerously, auspiciously low amount of them. I capped them at 10% down the line. I thought I was going to just take them out of my pool entirely. Couldn't really do it when I saw how much negative leverage was starting to show up and creeped up on the Dodgers throughout the day. It is a bullpen game here, basically. I mean, Sessa isn't going to go that far for the Reds, and then they've already got the middle reliever announced. That it's going to be San Martin, right? He's going to be the guy who comes in and eats up another 2-3 innings. I'm not that enthusiastic with going to the Dodgers as opposed to just accepting some Coors Field shares, but I'm just going to do it all by the means of the Cubs. What are you doing with the Rockies on DraftKings specifically?
Playing them 18%.
Oh, no.
They're tied for my top 18% of my lineups are Cub stacks. Same with
I thought
Rockies.
we were going to have fun today, Gundacker. I thought we were both going to be in on this Colorado train.
I want to be, trust me, but they're just too cheap. So normally I could fade. Normally you have to choose between high-end pitching or Coors. Why not both? Today you get both, so I'm playing both, and it's a smaller slate, so I'm hoping to have the right combo, and then Frazier, Madrigal, VR, Swindell, Suzuki, easily some of my favorite bats to get to in that stack. And like I said, Wisdom is projecting extremely well in my power model, but betting ninth may not give it 1 or 2 shots at Freeland.
Okay, well, I thought we were better than that, but I get it. I totally get it. I'm stacking Rangers. What else do you want? I want you to do the things that I'm doing so I can feel better about them.
You come at me with 95% of a pitcher and then call me a chalk donkey.
Oh, hang on. Remember when you gave me the yeehaw to my chalk donkey? There it is.
Chalk donkey. All right.
Oh man,
we're off the rails. All I know is 222 likes. So that's not enough.
222 likes. That's not enough. That's not enough for this. Hey, I'm stacking Tigers over here, said Terry McBee. Hey, I'm stacking Tigers over here. I can't do it. I was trying to.
That got awfully Boston, awfully quick. I have 12% Tigers, so I'm there with you. I like the Tigers. I like the Royals too. I think that game could be a shootout. Both.
I really like Austin Meadows. I really like the Royals. The Royals are a team that I want to have do good things today. That's pretty much the most basic way of putting that. I need them to play well. I want them to play well. But looking down the rest of it, we've got the Yankees up to 8.3% top stack potential. There's positive leverage to get to them. I'm happy to go over the field on them. The Angels, you weren't that enthusiastic. I still like the top half of the order there. I'm okay getting to it. I'm also all right landing on some Dunning here. It's pretty unavoidable that you're going to have some stacks. You're going to have stacks not going up against your pitcher, but you're just going to have them all in the same player pool, no doubt about it. But Contrarian on DraftKings, anything stick out to you that you're getting to on more on DraftKings than you're getting to on FanDuel?
Where did my top stack page go?
Yeah, I'm getting to a lot more Royals on DK.
Yeah, I'm pretty linear side to side because I don't have much exposure to the early offenses. I just grabbed some Alcantara.
Okay, that's fair. Way to really fill time there so I can finish
my
line.
I need we need a safe word here. Just
triangle. Pterodactyl.
Right. That does let me know you need me to fill some time here.
It's almost like we're announcing Power Rangers, isn't that? They just named the dinosaurs ahead of time, right?
Maybe you
Mastodon,
are
pterodactyl.
Whoa!
I'm just saying that was what it was back in the day, right? Did you not watch Power Rangers when you were like? I mean, we're the same age. When you were like 5, I definitely watched Power Rangers.
I watched wrestling and sports, man.
Me too, but also had to mix in some pop culture because how else was I going to get material for the YouTube streams that I knew were going to exist when I was 5 years old?
I'm going to want to remember that.
Oh man, Gavin Luck's not in the lineup, by the way, in case anybody, I had to manually remove him on Cruncher. I don't think anybody else, if you just kept refreshing, you probably didn't have that problem, but I did here. All right. Top stacks. We talked about both of them on FanDuel. We talked about them now on DK. Let's go position by position. Then I just kind of want to chat some baseball with you. We can look through some stuff over on Odd Shopper. We can do some reads. We can have some fun. Cause again, this is your time. If you have questions for Gun and myself, start loading those in. I'm going to pull up the premium Discord as well. So if you guys want to ask questions over there, super chat, anything, you just let me know. Yeah. T McBee, you guys need me to hop on and monologue about this slate for 5 minutes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like at a certain point, it's like there's only so many ways that I can talk about the same plays that I absolutely love or how to get unique. And again, I just want to make sure that I don't have all of the chalky bats. I don't want to just be stacking up Coors Field constantly with popular pitchers because it's just going to be a lot of overlap. I'm just praying that Colorado fails. That's really what I'm coming down to here. But starting at catcher, highest known catcher on DraftKings Gun.
1 second. I have a lot of Salvi at the top here. Mitch Garver, Will Smith. Can get jiggy with him. Elias Diaz.
Can't say that anymore. He got canceled.
Oh, my bad. And then Yan Gomes kind of snuck in there, right? Wasn't ready for that one. So he just kind of fills out the middle of these Cub stacks. So a little ribeye steak potential if he can clear the bases.
Yeah, I really like young Yan Gomes here today. There's no doubt about it. So I feel pretty confident saying that he's the guy that I need to have go nuts there, along with Sal Perez, Will Smith. Those are the three. Elias Diaz, don't do it to me, please. That's all I can say. To first base we go.
Is this where I chime in? Okay.
This is where you
triangle
go.
All right.
Oh, triangle. Triangle.
Over.
Okay. Once upon a time, in a land far away called South Dakota, a young man was born. His name was Eric. That's the end of the story. All right, go ahead.
CJ Cron is probably my highest owned first baseman on FanDuel. Right behind him, a little bit of Freddie Freeman, and then Connor Joe's just fallen, but I think his number's a little inflated due to dual position eligibility.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm hoping he fails because I have 5% of him. So that is what it is, but I totally get it. He's one of the best hitting. If you're playing cash, 3,400, he's a lock. Like he's just a guy that you have in your lineups and you can play him at outfield. You can play him at first base. He has a lot of utility. That's where you're going to see him around 30% tonight. I'm hoping Schwindel can do something for us. I'm definitely looking at a guy like Freddie Freeman as well. Happy to play him there. And Jared Walsh in the 3-hole. It's not really getting any consideration against Dane Dunning. That feels wrong, sir. You are wrong. To second base we go.
Got it. No, but not triangle yet.
All right. You're good.
All right. So Nick Madrigal obviously is falling pretty easily. You mentioned Whit Merrifield, and we kind of undersold like the Royals and Tigers. I like that game, and I do have quite a big stake in that. So Whit Merrifield is popping in a lot of my top end for second base. DJ LeMahieu's looking like he's a professional hitter again. I'm hoping he overtakes Donaldson in the leadoff spot sooner than later. And then Brendan Rodgers. Brendan, that's a nice name.
Wait, what is this Philly-Miami game delayed? What are we talking about? Is that
Miami, the park with a roof? I'm sure it's nothing.
That's absurd. That would make no sense, but whatever. Yeah, I'm with you. Whit Merrifield, the guy that I just like this Kansas City game as well. Kansas City, Detroit. Jonathan Scope. Is nobody going to really? He had some power once upon a time last year with the Twins. All the time he's had power, and surprisingly so. 4,300 against Zach Greinke, the corpse of Zach Greinke. Once upon a time, the former great Zach Greinke. Keyword former great. There you go. Alberto Mondesi getting the most ownership in the 7-hole. That's pretty crazy over on DK at third base. But third base is usually sadness and broken dreams. Give me Bobby Witt for all the money if he's going to be lower owned than Alberto Mondesi. But who sticks out to you over on third on DraftKings?
Sadness and broken dreams, man. Story of your life. Justin Turner. That was rude. I'm sorry. I felt bad as soon as I was trying to work with it. All right. Justin Turner at the top.
You're making fun of South Dakota?
Hey, my girl's she was born in South Dakota, so I can't. Justin Turner's at the top. Jonathan VR's up there. Max Muncy and Ryan McMahon.
I was going to say, South Dakota does have the Black Hills. That's where I had my bachelor party because it was like the only state that was open. So went out into the middle of the wilderness, a bunch of men, ate beef jerky, just lived on the land.
You ever do any sweats?
What?
So you said the land. So there's a large native population. My girl's native.
Yeah.
So they do sweats. So
they go out and they literally go sweat. And yeah. We did not do that, but it would be a very strong, like ayahuasca, like a spiritual druggy experience. That would be an interesting way to live your life. Not for me. I don't know. I'm pretty straight laced in my life, Gun. What you see is what you get. What I get and what you see is probably Chad, according to YouTube chat, which is pretty funny. Or Girls Gone Wild, according to YouTube chat as well. Shout out to the filter. Always funny. I always feel like when bestcams.fun/hot girls and boys 18 plus video chat shows up, it's a good day and you've made it.
Yeah.
Triangle.
Okay. So a shortstop. We going to shortstop?
Shortstop we go. Yes.
All right. So Trey Turner, Bo Bichette, Corey Seager. Bo Bichette, I probably need to dial that down a little bit, get a little bit more. I also love Javi Baez. Like I said, I kind of had that feeling in my bad knee with the storm coming in. And he's gonna send one over the wall. So I'm on Baez for a bomb. And then I really have nothing in the scraps down there. I'm really leaning the high end, and Trey Turner is just a beast.
Trey Turner's good, confirmed good at baseball. That's really all there is to say about that. Outfield, give me your 3 highest owned outfielders for DraftKings purposes.
Connor Joe, Clint Frazier, Chris Bryant. Now, Joe and Bryant are coming with Bryant's only outfield eligible. I thought that was inflated. It's just obvious Coors reasons. Those guys against lefties. I have Suzuki. I have more Suzuki on FanDuel because I think DraftKings got his price right, but he's still really, really good. Past that, man, there's a lot. I probably really need to water that down a little bit. Mookie Betts, obviously. Charlie Blackmon. Maybe I want to come up on Blackmon just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Again, if there's going to be a guy one-off wise, but maybe Charlie Blackmon's just done. Maybe he's done. I don't think he's done, but there's an opportunity based on his numbers last year. It would imply that struggle bus. But I mean, you were like a year removed from him. They were talking about him winning like an MVP 2 years ago, absent everybody, when you had all the injuries that were riddled for Colorado in that season. I don't know. I that feels a little egregious, but Charlie Blackmon, I think, is going to be all right going forward. I don't mind him as even a one-off, even though I don't really want to one-off the most popular team on the slate. We just got a Reds lineup. And, it's a good thing we have a DH in the NL now, right? Their DH is Moran batting 9th. Oh my God.
Way to use it.
Way to use it. Way to really put in that effort. Put in that work, Devin. Don't give up.
There's no Tommy Pham in the lineup.
No Tommy Pham. All right. I'm just going to read this off for all of you. Jonathan India, Tyler Naquin, Jake Fraley batting 3rd. Not ideal. Joey Votto, Tyler Stevenson, Aristides Aquino. Good to see him in our lives. Mike Moustakas, Kyle Farmer, Colin Moran. I mean, Colin Moran, at least he hits righties, but this is not the righty I want to be targeting. It's cool outside my front door. It's not exactly like the 75, 80 degree LA days. My buddy Minshew Wen knows. What's up, Grant? My guy hanging out in the YouTube chat, fellow Los Angelian. Good to see you. But it's definitely one of those things where this lineup is not good.
Nope, not good.
Not
good.
Great, Bob. Not great. All right.
Now what you want.
Well, let's do this because we are just cruising. If you haven't checked out our premium betting picks, this is the best time to jump in and check them out now as the MLB is getting going, just because I feel like whenever a sport starts, it takes sports books a little bit of time to really adjust and get the numbers. They want all the data the same way everybody else does, but there are some soft lines that exist out in the industry, and we have got just the guys to help you guys take advantage of them. That is Alex Baker. That's Ben Raza. That's Steve DeColt's Buzzard. All of these guys putting their best picks forward for you in the Betting Picks Discord channel. Also follow at Awesemo Bets. That's at Awesemo Bets on Twitter. Check out their favorite bet of the entire day. But look at this, curated bets from experts, premium bet picks Discord. You have an ROI tracker. You're going to get exclusive promos. Take advantage of this now. Get there early and often. They'll have NBA picks. They'll have any sport you could possibly want. If there is value to be extracted from it, I guarantee you they're going to have bets available for you to get to take advantage of it. I know when NHL started up, I've seen our guy News God posting screenshots on OddsShopper constantly. Well, if you want to know exactly what to bet, be subscribed to this channel. It will pay for itself. No question in my mind. So take advantage of that. And that's at Awesemo Bets. We'll be posting one free bet a day. I will find out what that bet is here in no time. I don't think it's posted yet in our Slack, but I will look for it here. All right. We've got 13 minutes to go here until lock of the DraftKings slate. We've covered pretty much everything you could possibly want here. There's really nowhere else to go outside of looking at the Yankees weather. I just want to double check and double back on this. Have they announced a game time at all, or are we just going to be sitting, waiting, wishing?
The only thing I saw is that they were opening up the gates at normal time. So
okay.
They got to get that hot dog money.
No kidding. Please be advised, it will not start on time, though. They're just opening the gates at 5:30 p.m. for tonight's game. That was earlier. And then we do not intend to begin games on time. Yeah, we are aware of that. Thank you so much, Yankees PR department on Twitter.
Yes. Go PR department.
Go PR department. Look at this. Awesemo Best Ball. Is that a Nick Lepre sighting? It is. I believe it is. Kyle Gibson, under 5.5 Ks, minus 110 on DK Sportsbook. So Kyle Gibson, under 5.5. 5.5 is a pretty gigantic number to be looking at for one. Kyle Gibson here. That game is just, I think it just got underway, didn't it? Yeah, it did. So that makes it tough. See, there's stuff like this. You want to be updated to those. So at Awesemo Bets, go check that out so you can take advantage of those bets when they get posted. Also be in that premium Discord so you can have them posted there. Checking in on the FanDuel slate, Kyle Schwarber. They're up 1-0 here on Sandy Alcantara. You say tomato, I say tomato. Yadiel Hernandez, Keibert Ruiz, 6.5 each there. Really nothing of note, no bombs yet. Let's do the double dong picks, my friend, because it is that time of the program. Who is your double dong of the day?
2 of them. So nice, got to do it twice. All right, I'll double down.
How about your Vladdy Guerrero Jr. of the night? How about 3?
Aaron Judge. Boom. And then, I got Javi Baez, man. I'm Javi for 2, Judge for 3, maybe 4. He trying, hey, Judge want that Trout money. See what Vladdy doing. Go out there and make a statement. Let's go.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, has he even had one this season?
He had one yesterday.
Oh, he did? Okay, I didn't see that. I was too busy watching Vladdy. He's good.
Okay.
I'm just saying, he's pretty good, in my opinion. Speak of the devil, why don't I pick Vladdy Guerrero Jr. off of Pedro Severino for a double dong? I'm just fine with getting the best hitting.
If Pedro Severino's pitching, I would co-sign that one.
Sorry, Pedro Severino, Luis Severino.
Okay.
My brain. Okay, apparently today also I said Casey Mays, which is made up. That's just a made up idea. Casey Mize, not good at pitching baseballs as well. I'm looking at this Kansas City side here in KC. Bobby Witt Jr. really breaks out here tonight. I'm going to just throw it out there. He hasn't gone long. How about he goes long twice tonight? Bobby Witt Jr. gets himself on the board. I'm looking forward to that. It's not just what my lineups want. It's what's going to happen. So let me know what you guys think. Vogeldong, did that just happen?
Did he? Let's go.
Oh, Javi Baez scratched on Thursday. Crap. Why does he keep getting scratched?
Bro, why is this
happening?
At the end of NBA, I'm like, you guys are gonna love it. There's no
It's
late
absurd.
scratch. It's not like NBA with news and whatever. And then this first week, every day, one of my core guys is like getting scratched. Fudge. All right. Well,
what am I supposed to do? I have so much of this guy on DK. All right. No big deal.
Not what you want.
Gundacker. Why is this happening? NBA is done with. Why does this?
I don't know.
This is the most ridiculous thing ever. I don't think I have him on FanDuel. That might be my saving grace here. Let me find out. Oh, sure. I have him on FanDuel. Never mind. Oh, this is so stupid. 8-10 start, at least plenty of time to fix it. Yeah, but Terry, we have to entertain on a show for 8 more minutes. 8 more minutes. It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. Smash that like button because Gun is out here working overtime.
We know 8 minutes is a long time for you.
8 minutes is a long time for anybody. Why would you want to take 8 minutes?
Okay. I want 300 likes, Eric. I
want 300 likes too. That would make me feel important, and I don't feel important. So it's fine. I meant for me. Thanks, Terry. I appreciate that. Oh, God. Trey Turner, a nice swap on FanDuel. Yeah, here's the problem. A lot of those lineups already have Trey Turner, so it's like we're just going to be revamping everything here. Also, I really don't care about on a 6-game slate. I'm going to have some salary left on the table here and just fine with that. All right, Daniel Vogelbach. Yeah, first dong on the board here. New Detroit lineup. So we have Castro now. That didn't change anything. He was still in that lineup, right? Oh, Reyes got moved up to the top of the order. We just talked about how Reyes got moved to the back end of the order, and now he's leading off.
One. All right. Let me recrunch here. Triangle. No, I can tell. What's up?
I gotta dial the goofy back. There's nothing to dial back. We have 7 minutes. We have all the time in the world, but Victor Reyes was once upon a time in the 9-hole. He is now leading off here for your Detroit Tigers. That is frustrating. That's like really frustrating. So now I have to recrunch everything that is Detroit with that game going on. It'll be okay. It's not that big of a deal. Gun, who do you see? And if you say the New York Yankees, I'll just do this. Who do you see making the World Series from the NL this season?
The Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's a good call. Gee, chalk donkey.
That's a horse, not a donkey.
That was my version of a donkey.
Well,
you donkey.
I feel like you don't know what a donkey is.
Isn't that Shrek's best friend? Played by a guy who was assaulted on live television.
Wasn't that Eddie Murphy, you racist?
No, it was Chris Rock. Wasn't Chris? Oh, it was Eddie Murphy. Was it Eddie Murphy?
Was it? Maybe.
I thought it was Chris Rock in my mind. Why did I always think it was Chris Rock?
Ah, dang.
It's Eddie Murphy.
It's 2000% Eddie Murphy.
Okay. Oh, it is Eddie Murphy.
No,
Chris
Power
Rock.
Rangers.
Hang on. No. Who voiced Donkey? Oh, it's Eddie Murphy. Oh, never mind. Why did I think that? Donkey was Eddie. What do you mean?
You were so many L's in a 1 minute span. This is like a record, bro.
Not really that big of a
wrong
deal.
Farm noises, wrong voice actor.
I'm team Chris Rock. I feel bad for that guy. It's like Will Smith, not ideal either. Coming to America. Coming to America too. I thought was pretty funny personally. Eddie Murphy. It's just good to see him act again. We haven't seen him forever. Rock played Zebra on Madagascar. That's pretty funny to think about. He also, wasn't he Maui on Moana? The Rock, I know he was. He was just on that Disney movie.
He meant Chris Rock. Jesus, Eric. The Rock was on Mount. Yes. Good God.
Eric is important now. Mandela effect. I thought it was Chris Rock too. I thought it was too. This is that thing. Have you heard about these theories where it's like an alternate universe where it's like there's certain words to songs that you could just swear your life on, but they're actually different. But it's like these small little minute differences.
Yes, Scott. Baez is really out. Sorry.
Yeah, Baez is 100% out. He does not. He is no longer a thing. Do not roster him. Eddie Murphy is going to slap me. No, he's not. Eddie Murphy's a goat. He's too kind. Same thing, Chris Rock. Yeah. Hopefully Will Smith's all right. We'll see. Mandela effect. Yeah, exactly. Mandela. Is that the Nelson Mandela effect? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Is that what it's referring to?
It's yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Kind of, but yes.
Kind of, but yes. I don't
it
why
is,
kind of.
Like I don't know. It is yes. Nelson Mandela. It was.
It's Berenstain Bear books as a kid. And how do you spell it? Berenstain. Bernstein. Right?
Yeah. I appreciate you thinking that I read books as a kid.
Berenstain Bears. Whoa. Berenstein. That can't be real. Berenstain Bears is spelled that way? That is mind-blowing. What? That is impossible. All right, now I know what we're talking about here. Also, 6-game slate, 8-game slate. We got it all covered. Do you want to recap anything for the people here in 3 minutes so that I can just not talk anymore?
Yeah, I think that would probably be best for everyone involved here. No, I mean, with that Baez news, I just, it made some swaps here. Unfortunately, I did think Baez was going to be a strong part of that power, that offense could reward something on base guys. So that's unfortunate. I think he had like a thumb issue or something. So maybe it waters down the upside in that offense a little bit, but I'm not really tweaking. I didn't have like a super high, I had like a 12% stake. So I'm just going to like hang on to that. I may start, maybe I may come down to 12% to 10%, but because it's a small slate, it's not really massive swings that I need to put that ownership on because he is still a high K guy. So I'm just going to trust that Greinke is a contact guy, and hopefully both teams can still have a little bit of a shootout.
All right. Abel Ramos, $1.99 super chat. I have Cubs, Braves, and Steele. Am I crazy? The Steele part is pretty crazy, even though he's like around a 50% ground ball pitcher. Overall 1.8 home run per 9 or home run per fly ball. Is that what home run per 9 last season on the old FanGraphs page? That's very bad, by the way. That's third worst amongst anybody, period. That is not ideal. So mostly ground balls, but when it gets hit in the air, 26.1% home run to fly ball ratio in 2021. That is bad. Probably don't want any Steele in my life today.
Yeah, don't play Justin Steele ever, right. But like especially today.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for checking everything out here. We've had people say that this is their favorite show that they've ever seen. I don't know how that's humanly possible, but also, it's always fun to watch me scramble a little bit. Also, we had late news. We had rain delays. This is not supposed to happen on 6-game slates, but I suppose it's still April 14th. Weather, those are things. Thank you so much to everybody. Smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button. You guys want to hang out here, chat baseball all year long. Looking forward to all of it that we can all handle together here. But Gun, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Go Yankees.
Go Yankees. And also go Eddie Murphy, because he's an absolute goat. He's Gundacker. He's the man. I'm Eric. I am just a stupid man. We'll see you guys later.
Oh my goodness.